After I was eliminated, I went around the world to learn various fighting techniques. Later, I found out that no matter how hard I practiced, I couldn't catch up with the speed of the secret technique. So, I came to Qingzhou University to study and fulfill my university dream. The reason why I joined the Taekwondo club was because Tang Yu quit the Taekwondo club and went to the martial art club to study, which caused a great impact on the Taekwondo club. The club president, Lu Wenlong, wanted to take revenge on the martial arts club, but he knew that he couldn't beat Wang Dongsheng with his flowery martial arts. He just happened to know about my strength from a friend, so he spent money to hire me. I'm actually not the vice president of the Taekwondo club. So that's how it is. Li Changxing nodded. When the two of them returned to the training room, Lu Wenlong and the other students of the Taekwondo club had already left. The challenge failed, especially when the martial arts club had a fierce person like Li Changxing in charge. Naturally, they didn't dare to cause trouble. Coach Li. After seeing Li Changxing, Wang Dongsheng hurriedly came up to greet him. At the same time, he looked at Wu Hongyi with hostility. President Wang, I have a request. I wonder if you can agree to it? At this moment, Wu Hongyi suddenly spoke. What request? Wang Dongsheng's eyes were still filled with caution. I want to join your martial arts club. What? This time, not only Wang Dongsheng, but also the other members of the martial arts club were surprised. They had already seen Wu Hongyi's strength. Even Wang Dongsheng was no match for him. Why would he suddenly want to join the martial arts club? Moreover, Wu Hongyi was now the vice president of the Taekwondo club in name. First, Tang Yu had jumped ship to the martial arts club. If he also joined the martial arts club, then the reputation of the Taekwondo club would be completely ruined. Li Changxing nodded slightly. In fact, he had already expected this to happen. Wu Hongyi and the Taekwondo club had a cooperative relationship. Now that he had received a favor from him, he naturally wanted to repay him by joining the shopping cart. Firstly, it was a way for him to express his attitude. Wang Dongsheng, just accept him. His strength isn't any worse than yours. Let him be the vice president. All right. Since Li Changxing had spoken, Wang Dongsheng naturally didn't dare to object. As for when and how to join, you should have a process. I still have something to do, so I'll take my leave first. After Li Changxing finished speaking, he immediately turned around and left. On the other hand, the students in the field had complicated thoughts. This Coach Li is really extraordinary. Even an expert like Wu Hongyi was convinced by him and joined the martial arts club. In the future, which martial arts club in Qingzhou University can compare to the martial arts club? Chapter 519. In the next few days, Li Changxing would occasionally go to the martial arts society to teach Wang Dongsheng and the others martial arts. To be honest, Wang Dongsheng and the others had improved very quickly. But from the competition with Wu Hongyi, it could be seen that they lacked actual combat experience. Li Changxing let Wu Hongyi spar with them. Sometimes, Wang Dongsheng clearly had the upper hand, but eventually lost. Li Changxing was also helpless about this. When enemies meet on a narrow path, the courageous would win. There were many things that could only be understood through experience. Without experience, one would never be able to understand. Other than occasionally going to the martial arts society, Li Changxing spent most of his time with Yu Wei. On the fourth day of school, Jiang Tao and Zhang Xiaofeng came back from Beijing and invited Li Changxing for a gathering. On the seventh day, Yu Wei also had to pack up and go to university. September 7th was the first day of school at Northwest University, China. People came and went in front of the school gate, and it was especially lively. Li Changxing accompanied Yu Wei into the campus, carrying all kinds of luggage. They only stopped when they arrived at the female dormitory, and a warm-hearted senior helped to bring them upstairs. Because there were still many procedures to go through, Li Changxing went to a cafe near the school gate to take a break. At noon, he received a call from Yu Wei, saying that she had already packed her things and completed the procedures. She asked Li Changxing where he was. Li Changxing sent her a message, asking her to wait at the school gate. When he arrived at the school gate, he saw that there were 3 other girls with Yu Wei. They were Yu Wei's new roommates. Li Changxing knew that in university, dorm mates were much closer to each other than their classmates. The 3 girls were called Sun Yinzi, Tong Xiao Xiao, and Yang Xiaoya. Sun Yinzi was wearing a long purple dress. She was rather pretty with light makeup on. She belonged to the elegant type. Tong Xiao Xiao, on the other hand, had a lively and cheerful personality. She was the first to greet Li Changsheng when they met. Yang Xiaoya, on the other hand, was more gentle and quiet. She wore black-rimmed glasses and looked like an introverted and well-behaved girl. When Yu Yuwei introduced Li Changsheng as her boyfriend, the three women looked at Li Changsheng curiously. Li Changsheng's appearance was ordinary, and the impression he left on the three girls was also very ordinary. They seemed to be a little surprised. With Yu Yuwei's condition, how could she find such a boyfriend? However, they had only known Yu Yuwei for less than 2 hours. Naturally, they didn't have low EQ to criticize her. They just suppressed their doubts in their hearts. You're Yuwei's roommates, so you'll be your sisters from now on. Please take care, Yuwei. Li Changsheng said with a smile. He found a restaurant near the school and treated the girls to a meal. As school had started today, the restaurant was very lively. There were more people, and the private rooms were all full. They had to find a seat by the window and had a simple meal. In the afternoon, he accompanied Yu Yuwei to buy some daily necessities. After parting ways with Yu Yuwei, Li Changsheng booked a temporary stay in a hotel in the city. These days, Li Changsheng had only been accompanying Yu Yuwei and didn't have much time to practice. Now that he was free, he had just started to meditate on the bed when he heard a knock on the door. When he opened the door, he saw a middle-aged man in a suit. He said politely, "Are you Mr. Li Changsheng?" "You are?" Li Changsheng frowned. He was sure that he had never seen this person before. Moreover, there was clearly spiritual energy fluctuation on this person's body, which meant that he was a cultivator. As if he was afraid that Li Changsheng would misunderstand, the middle-aged man immediately introduced himself. "Hello, Mr. Li. I'm Yin Tianming, the person in charge of the Heavenly Tao Alliance in Qin City. After Mr. Li came to Qin City, I received instruction from my superiors to visit Mr. Li. Come in first." Hearing footsteps in the corridor, Li Changsheng was afraid that ordinary people would see him and cause a bad impression. Therefore, he invited the man into his room. "Why? Did the Heavenly Tao Alliance send someone to spy on me? Otherwise, how could you know my whereabouts the moment I arrived in Qin City?" Li Changsheng's tone was a little cold. No one would be in a good mood if they were spied on. "Mr. Li, please don't misunderstand. Qin City is the headquarters of the Heavenly Tao Alliance. Of course, we would know that a famous figure like Mr. Li has arrived." Upon hearing the man's words, Li Changsheng was surprised. He did not expect the headquarters of the Heavenly Tao Alliance to be in the Northwest. This was their headquarters. Furthermore, he had been in the limelight for the past year. It was normal for him to be the center of attention. Seeing that Li Changsheng's expression had eased, Yin Tianming heaved a sigh of relief. "Speak. What's the matter? I still need to cultivate." Although Li Changsheng had figured out whether or not the other party was spying on him, he still did not have a good expression. Chu Shang, who had been sent by the Heavenly Tao Alliance to make contact with him, had not left a good impression on him. "It's like this. I believe that when Mr. Chu visited you last time, you must have learned about the situation of our Heavenly Tao Alliance. Our Heavenly Tao Alliance takes protecting China as our responsibility. We need talents like Mr. Li. I'm here to convey the message from our superiors. We hope that Mr. Li can consider joining our Heavenly Tao Alliance. We are willing to give you the position of a guest elder." "I'm not interested in joining the Heavenly Tao Alliance for the time being." Li Changsheng shook his head. As a citizen of China, protecting China was also Li Changsheng's responsibility. Li Changsheng would not refuse. However, that did not mean that he could only protect China if he joined the Heavenly Tao Alliance. He did not have a good impression of the Heavenly Tao Alliance and did not want to be restricted. "Mr. Li, don't be in a hurry to refuse. There will only be benefits for you if you join the Heavenly Tao Alliance. Of course, with my status, I am unable to promise you the specifics. The Alliance has only sent me here to make the first move. There will be a big shot who will personally meet you tomorrow. At that time, he will discuss the details with you." After saying that, Yin Tianming bid farewell to Li Changsheng. "Mr. Li, I won't disturb your rest. Someone will come to pick you up tomorrow." After saying that, Yin Tianming turned and left Li Changsheng's room. After Yin Tianming left, Li Changsheng could not help but fall in a deep thought. This is the second time the Heavenly Tao Alliance has invited me. Last time, Chu Liushang acted all high and mighty. I wonder who will come this time? Of course, from the beginning to the end, Li Changsheng had never thought of joining the Heavenly Tao Alliance. However, from various signs, the Heavenly Tao Alliance's influence in China was very strong. It was many times stronger than Mount Shu, Qingchang Sword Sect, and other cultivation sections. Therefore, Li Changsheng did not refuse Yin Tianming's request. He wanted to see what kind of power the Heavenly Tao Alliance was. It would be best if they could get along with each other peacefully. However, if they became his enemy, then he would not hesitate to eradicate them. After all, Yu Wei, Qi Yu, and other friends were ordinary people. Once they became enemies, Li Changsheng was not afraid of them. However, his friends and family might become their targets. Chapter 520. On this day, Li Changsheng had just woken up and had his breakfast when two young people came to look for him. One was a man, and the other was a woman. Both of them had an extraordinary bearing, especially the woman. She had a slender figure and an unapproachable face. However, she had the temperament of an ice beauty. Ever since she appeared, she had attracted the attention of many passers-by. "May I ask if you're Mr. Li? We are here on Old Wei's orders to pick you up." Although the young man kept saying, Li Changsheng could clearly see the arrogance on his face. The woman beside him did not say anything. She just secretly sized up Li Changsheng. "Then let's go." Li Changsheng did not refuse and directly sat in the car. The car started and drove towards the outskirts of Qin City. Along the way, Li Changsheng sat in the back seat of the car and closed his eyes. He did not have a good impression of the Heavenly Tao Alliance. Especially this time, the person who wanted to meet him was so secretive that he didn't even show his face. If it weren't for the fact that he wanted to figure out the actual situation of this organization, Li Changsheng wouldn't have accepted their invitation. The car drove for half an hour and arrived in front of a huge manor. Just as the car stopped, a white-haired old man wearing a Tang suit walked up. The car door opened, and Li Changsheng walked down. "I have long heard of your name." Next to the old man was the middle-aged man who had met Li Changsheng yesterday, Yin Tianming. He hurriedly introduced, "This is Wei Gengxiu, Old Wei. Old Wei is an elder of our Heavenly Tao Alliance. You are the one who wants to meet me?" Li Changsheng frowned. The other party was so mysterious that it made him unhappy. "I invited Mr. Li from so far away. It is indeed my fault for only showing up now. If Mr. Li has any complaints, it is only right. Why don't we talk inside?" As he spoke, he warmly invited Li Changsheng into the manor. The man and woman who got out of the car couldn't help but frown. As the Heavenly Tao Union's elder with true authority, Wei Gengxiu could be said to be second only to the Heavenly Tao Union's elder. It was already a great honor for him to take the initiative to welcome this youth. However, this youth didn't seem to appreciate it. This caused the two people who had always respected Wei Gengxiu to feel somewhat displeased. He's just a small, loose cultivator in the Jianghu. After making a name for himself, he doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Only Old Wei has a good temper. If it were me, I would have directly told him to scram back to where he came from. The man said indignantly. His name was Fu Guohao, and he was Old Man Wei's subordinate. He had followed Wei Gengxiu for many years, and he had received a lot of guidance from Wei Gengxiu. He regarded Wei Gengxiu as half his master. Since Elder Wei has taken a fancy to him, it means that he is worthy of being valued. Elder Wei has always had his reasons for doing things. As subordinates, we should listen and observe more and speak less, lest we ruin Elder Wei's plans. The woman said coldly. She was obviously dissatisfied with Fu Guohao's attitude. However, after she finished speaking, she added, "However, this youth is indeed somewhat unruly." Li Changsheng was led into the hall by Wei Gengxiu. Yin Tianming was in charge of serving tea, while Wei Gengxiu introduced himself. "My name is Wei Gengxiu, and I am an elder of the Heavenly Tao Union. Our Heavenly Tao Union's mission is to protect China. Mr. Li is famous throughout the capital. Last time, Winding Shang represented the Heavenly Tao Union to invite Mr. Li. I heard that his attitude wasn't very good, which made Mr. Li quite angry. As a result, Mr. Li is now prejudiced against our Heavenly Tao Union. Actually, our Heavenly Tao Union is an alliance formed by several factions. Winding Shang is from the Western region, and the Western region's heritage extends to the Kunlun Mountains. He has always considered himself as an orthodox cultivator and is arrogant and complacent. As for me, I belong to the Northern region, and I belong to a completely different faction from them. I have long heard of Mr. Li's great name and wanted to visit Mr. Li. Unfortunately, the capital isn't part of our Northern region's sphere of influence, so I haven't been able to do so. Yesterday, when I heard that Mr. Li had come to our northern headquarters, I immediately sent Yin Tianming to visit Mr. Li. Hearing Wei Gengxiu's words, Li Changsheng understood. The Heavenly Tao Union was divided into several factions, and this Qin city was the headquarters of the Heavenly Tao Union's northern region. Since this is your territory, and you are so sincere, why don't you personally visit? Instead, you're acting so sneakily. Li Changsheng was still somewhat dissatisfied. He felt that the other party was deliberately mystifying him. He said one thing, but his heart was another. Mr. Li, you are mistaken. Recently, our Heavenly Tao Union's Union Master suddenly announced that he would be going into seclusion to cultivate and withdraw from the position of Union Master. The Heavenly Tao Union's 5 major divisions are all vying for the position of Union Master. As the manager of the Northern region, my every action is being monitored by the other divisions. If I were to personally visit Mr. Li, it would definitely cause a series of chain reactions. I understand. Li Changsheng nodded. At this moment, Wei Gengxiu suddenly stood up and bowed to Li Changsheng. This caught Li Changsheng somewhat off guard. Mr. Li, I sincerely invite you to be our Northern region's guest elder. Our Northern region is the weakest among the 5 major divisions, and we urgently need someone like Mr. Li to revitalize our strength. Seeing the other party's sincere expression, Li Changsheng shook his head. I do not wish to be restricted by others. Mr. Li, if you were to join our Northern region, I can give you the greatest authority. I will definitely not interfere with you in the slightest. Moreover, our Heavenly Tao Union represents the government to monitor the entire cultivation world. Mr. Li's actions in the capital have long been under the government surveillance. If you do not join the Heavenly Tao Union, I am afraid that there will be endless trouble in the future. The government will definitely not allow a ticking time bomb to exist. Hearing the other party's words, Li Changsheng fell into deep thought. Indeed, a person like him had too much destructive power. The government would definitely think of ways to control him. If he were to join the Heavenly Tao Union and use the Heavenly Tao Union's identity to eliminate the government's doubts, it would not be a bad choice. Moreover, this Wei Gengxiu was much more sincere than Chu Liushang. Give me some time to consider, Li Changsheng said after thinking for a while. All right. Wei Gengxiu's face revealed some joy. He was really afraid that Li Changsheng would reject him. All right, if there's nothing else, send someone to send me back. Li Changsheng stood up. Wei Gengxiu immediately asked the young man and woman to send Li Changsheng back to the city. The two of them seemed to have a lot of opinions about Li Changsheng, and their faces were sullen along the way. After sending Li Changsheng to his destination, the two of them immediately returned. I really don't understand what's so unusual about this young man. Elder Wei actually wants to give him the position of guest elder. Moreover, he said that he needs to consider. If he wasn't Elder Wei's guest, I would really want to teach him a lesson. The young man, Fu Guohao, said with dissatisfaction, Don't make trouble. Right now, our northern region is in a difficult period. Elder Wei might be willing to give him the position of guest elder to rope in the faction behind him. Yang Xiaoyai analyzed. Are you saying that he has a powerful sect or clan? That's right. Otherwise, do you think that with his age, Elder Wei would do this? So that's how it is. Fu Guohao revealed a look of understanding. It seems that reincarnation is really a skill. Chapter 5:21. They stayed in Chin City for a few days. On the fifth day, Yue called and said that her roommates were going out for a meal. She asked Li Changsheng if he wanted to go. Li Changsheng didn't refuse. When he arrived at the entrance of the university, Yue and her roommates were already there. Li Changsheng had met them last time, so they were familiar with each other this time. Tong Xiao, who was the most lively and cheerful, greeted Li Changsheng from afar. Yang Xiaoya, who was more quiet, just smiled. Other than Yue, Sun Yanzi, who was the prettiest in their dormitory, was followed by a bespectacled man. The man was fair and clean. He was wearing sportswear and took the initiative to shake hands with Li Changsheng. "Hello, I'm Yanzi's boyfriend, Wang Wenan. I heard from Yanzi that the prettiest girl in their dormitory, Yue, is already taken. Brother, you're really lucky." Li Changsheng also reached out and shook hands with him. "It's my treat today. I'll take everyone out for a big meal." Wang Wenan pointed at an Audi A6 parked at the entrance of the university and said proudly, "This is my car. Everyone get in." After saying that, he seemed to have thought of something. He looked at Li Changsheng and Yue with a troubled expression. "My car can only seat 5 people. There are 6 of us. I'm afraid it won't fit. Looks like you two have to take a taxi." "No problem." Li Changsheng smiled. "Tell us the address. We'll take a taxi there." Wang Wenan nodded and told Li Changsheng the name of the restaurant. Then he asked the girls to get in the car. This was the latest model of the year. Wang Wenan obviously took good care of his car. The black paint was shining. When the car turned around and passed by Li Changsheng, Sun Yanzi rolled down the window and waved her hand. "Then we'll wait for you two at the restaurant." She couldn't hide the pride in her tone. She and Wang Wenan had just confirmed their relationship 2 days ago. However, she was very satisfied with her boyfriend. Although Wang Wenan couldn't be said to be very handsome, he looked quite delicate. Moreover, when he was in university, he could drive an Audi A6 that cost more than 400,000 yuan. In Yanzi Sun's eyes, Yue may be prettier than her, but she was clearly inferior to her in terms of quality. Although the few of them in the dormitory got along quite well these days on the surface, they were as close as sisters, but behind their backs, there was a secret comparison. Sun Yanzi was a prideful person. She had always been like a princess since she was young. But when she met Yue, she felt defeated for the first time. Fortunately, she managed to find a boyfriend. Li Changsheng and Wang Wenan stopped a taxi by the roadside and went straight to the Jinsui hotel mentioned by Wang Wenan. Because Wang Wenan had just bought a new car and had just gotten his driver's license, he was slower on the road. On the other hand, Li Changsheng arrived at the hotel first. After waiting at the hotel entrance for more than 10 minutes, Wang Wenan finally arrived. It wasn't easy to find a parking space in the crowded parking lot. When they got out of the car, they could see that Wang Wenan's face was covered in sweat. Yanzi Sun was very considerate as she wiped the sweat off his forehead. She held Wang Wenan's arm and walked in with a sweet face. Tong Xiao and Yang Xiaoya, who were following behind Yanzi Sun, were looking back and forth between Wang Wenan and Li Changsheng. They were secretly comparing them in their hearts. At the same time, their eyes were filled with envy. Although Wang Wenan wasn't considered a rich second-generation heir, he was already an ideal partner for ordinary girls like them. This Jinsui hotel is said to be opened by a mysterious boss in Chin City. It can be ranked in the top 10 hotels in Chin City. The chefs here are all 5-star. As long as you have the money, you can order any of the 8 major cuisines that you want to eat. Wang Wenan introduced the hotel to them as they walked. A meal here would cost an average of $2,000 per person. Initially, he planned to spend some alone time with Yanzi Sunday. It would only cost $4,000 per person, which wasn't too expensive. Who knew that in order to show off her rich boyfriend to Yue and the other girls, Yanzi Sun would call everyone in her dorm and even asked Yue to call Li Changsheng as well. After calculating, the 6 of them would cost more than $10,000, which made Wang Wenan feel a little pained. However, he certainly wouldn't show it on his face. He had already spent the money, so he pretended to be generous. Reality proved that Wang Wenan's idea was right. Whether it was Tong Xiaoxiao or Yang Xiaoya, they were now envious of Yinzi Sunday. The way they looked at him had also changed, which satisfied his vanity a little. The only regret was that Yu Youwei's eyes were on Li Changsheng from the beginning to the end. The only person who could make him feel superior was Li Changsheng. After entering the hotel, he didn't look around like a country bumpkin. That calm look of his maid Wang Wenan, who was trying to show off, feel a little disappointed. After entering the room and ordering, the dishes were quickly served. As the host, Wang Wenan spoke a few words with a drink instead of wine. When Yu Yue heard that Li Changsheng would be leaving Qin City in a few days, she was a little reluctant to part with him. The bigger the hotel, the lesser the amount of food. Fortunately, the girls present had a small appetite, so there wasn't any awkwardness of not being able to fill their stomachs. Li Changsheng, on the other hand, was a little hungry. The speed at which he ate was like a whirlwind sweeping away the clouds. Yu Yue didn't feel that Li Changsheng's behavior was old-fashioned. Instead, he had a tender look on his face. This was probably the so-called beauty is in the eye of the beholder. However, the other girls were completely different. Li Changsheng had an ordinary temperament, so they guessed that he didn't have any special background. At this moment, seeing Li Changsheng wolfing down his food without any gentlemanly demeanor, they immediately categorized him as a country bumpkin in their hearts. The relationship between Li Changsheng and Yu Yue was also automatically described as a comparison between toad, swan meat, pig, and cabbage. Wang Wenan, who had been secretly comparing himself with Li Changsheng at the beginning, had completely kicked Li Changsheng out of the list of his rivals at this moment. His speech and behavior were more relaxed and complacent. Li Changsheng, you have been in Qin City for so many days. Don't you have a job? Tong Xiaoxiao, who was the most careless, finally couldn't help but ask Li Changsheng. I'm a college student. Li Changsheng said, don't you have to go to school? I've been doing my internship outside since my freshman year. Li Changsheng smiled. He couldn't say that he didn't go to school every day and ran around blindly. So that's the case. Tong Xiaoxiao nodded. Sun Yinzi, Yang Xiaoya, and even Wang Wenan suddenly understood. He had been doing his internship outside to earn money since his freshman year. He didn't even have time to enjoy his college life. This was the true portrayal of a child from a poor family. It said that children from a poor family take charge early. Maybe Yu Yue took a fancy to his hard work. They all thought so in their hearts. However, the three girls shook their heads at the same time in their hearts. After a few days of contact, they could see that Yu Yue was a kind and simple girl. Using hard work as the standard for choosing a spouse was actually outdated. In today's society, family background was the most important. How could it be so easy for a poor man from a village to soar into the sky and become a man from a wealthy family? Chapter 522. After the meal, the few of them sat together and chatted. Sun Yinzi and Tong Xiaoxiao talked about cosmetics, while Yang Xiaoya and Yu Yue talked about their studies. Wang Wenan took out his phone and invited a few friends to play games together. He was too lazy to talk to Li Changsheng except for the initial courtesy. He was too lazy to talk to Li Changsheng. After all signs showed that Li Changsheng was not from the same world as him. Of course, his family was not very rich. It was just that water flows to the bottom and people walk to the top. He wanted to make friends, so he naturally had to get in touch with people who were similar to him or even better than him. Li Changsheng was just a village boy who was trying his best to change his fate. Perhaps 20 or 30 years later, he would really rely on his own efforts to make a name for himself. But how could it be so easy for a poor family to give birth to a noble son? He couldn't possibly lower himself to get in touch with someone he didn't like just because of a possibility. After finishing the game, Wang Wenan called the waiter standing at the door of the private room. Bill, please. At this moment, he felt that he was the most handsome boy in the room, although the bill of 12,000 yuan made his heart ache a little. Sir, someone has already settled the bill for your table. When the waiter said that, everyone in the private room was stunned. None of the people present had left the room. Who was the one who paid the bill? Someone has already settled the bill. Who is it? Wang Wenan was also confused. He was not a local in Qin City. He did not have time to make any friends when he came here to study in university. If he was in his hometown, it was possible that someone he knew would settle the bill for him. However, in Qin City, the chances of that happening were very low. Moreover, he did not have any friends who were so generous with a bill of more than 10,000 yuan. As it turned out, he was right. I'm the one who settled the bill. It's my honor to have Mr. Li eat in a hotel under my name. How would I dare to accept Mr. Li's money? A few people walked in from outside. The leader was an old man with white hair. He was wearing a Chinese tunic suit and was in high spirits. There were a few people following behind the old man. One of them was a bald, middle-aged man wearing a suit and a bow tie. When he appeared, the waiter immediately showed respect. "Director Liu, why are you here?" This bald, middle-aged man turned out to be the general manager of Jin Sui Hotel. "I'm here to accompany the chairman." The bald, middle-aged man hurriedly pulled out a chair and motioned for the waitress to pour some tea. Unexpectedly, the old man waved his hand and looked at Li Changsheng. "Mr. Li, we meet again." At this time, no matter how slow everyone's reaction was, they could tell that this old man had come for Li Changsheng. Sun Yinzi, Tong Xiao, Yang Xiaoya, and Wang Wenan all widened their eyes. This was the behind-the-scenes boss of Jin Sui Hotel. Who exactly was this Li Changsheng? Not to mention him, even General Manager Liu and the waiter next to him were full of doubts. So it's Elder Wei. At this moment, Li Changsheng stood up. He didn't expect this hotel to be the property of the Heavenly Dao Union, but after thinking about it, he understood. The Qin City was the headquarters of the Heavenly Dao Union in the north, and any cultivation force couldn't do without the support of worldly wealth. It was normal for them to have properties in the secular world. These few must be Mr. Li's friends. Wei Gengxiu smiled and nodded at Wang Wenan, Sun Yinzi, and the other girls, making them feel flattered. This was the chairman of Jin Sui Hotel, a real big shot. They usually had the chance to see him on TV. "Since you're Mr. Li's friends, as long as you come to my Jin Sui Hotel to eat in the future, no matter how much it costs, it will be free of charge." As soon as he said that, Wang Wenan and the others were dumbfounded. This was Jin Sui Hotel. A meal here would cost at least a few thousand yuan, and it would be free of charge in the future. Not to mention the money they could save by eating here, just this privilege alone was enough to brag in front of their friends for the rest of their lives. "This must be Mr. Li's girlfriend, right?" Wei Gengxiu looked at Yu Wei. Then, very formally, he handed over his golden business card with both hands. "This is my business card. With this business card, you can enjoy free of charge in any property under my name. Also, no matter what difficulties you encounter in the 3 northern provinces, you can come to me." Seeing Wei Gengxiu, who was about the same age as her grandfather, respectfully handing over the business card, Yu Wei subconsciously looked at Li Changsheng. "Take it." Li Changsheng nodded at Yu Wei. Yu Wei accepted it in fear and trepidation. When Yu Wei accepted the business card, Elder Wei's face finally bloomed with a smile. "Mr. Li, what do you think of the request I made the other day? I've decided to agree to it." Li Changsheng smiled. "Then I won't disturb Mr. Li from catching up with your friends." Wei Gengxiu's face seemed to be glowing again. He simply turned around and left the room. After Elder Wei and the others left for a long time, Tong Xiao and the others finally reacted. "Li Changsheng, who exactly are you? How do you know the behind-the-scenes boss of Jin Sui Hotel?" "Yes, Changsheng, you're really good at hiding things." Wang went on, who had been cold to Li Changsheng since he entered Jin Sui Hotel, completely changed his attitude at this moment. Nian and Changsheng are in the same dormitory as a rich second generation. Probably because of him, Nian's attitude towards Changsheng is different. Yu Wei naturally knew some of Li Changsheng's identities, so she found a reason to explain. "Yes, because my friend's family background is more powerful and I have a good relationship with him. Elder Wei is so polite to me because of him." Li Changsheng also echoed Yu Wei's words. "Really?" The few people present looked doubtful. Obviously, they didn't believe Li Changsheng's explanation. However, since Li Changsheng didn't want to disclose, they weren't stupid and didn't ask anymore. However, everyone's gaze towards Li Changsheng had changed. Originally, They thought that Li Changsheng wasn't good enough for Yu Yu Wei, but now, no one thought so anymore. Sun Yanzi's eyes were a little complicated. Compared to Li Changsheng, her boyfriend Wang Wen'an, who drove an Audi A6, seemed to be overshadowed. Tong Xiaoxiao and Yang Xiaoyao were a little envious. First, Sun Yanzi found a good boyfriend like Wang Wen'an. Then, it was revealed that Yu Youwei's boyfriend was very likely to be a rich second generation. They hated that they weren't born as beautiful as Sun Yanzi and Yu Youwei. They lost in terms of innate beauty. Obviously, there was no hope for them to surpass the two in terms of quality. Chapter 523. After Li Changsheng agreed to join the Heavenly Tao Alliance, Wei Gingqiu was naturally very happy. After meeting Li Changsheng at the Jinsui Hotel, he didn't bother Li Changsheng for the next few days. Li Changsheng took the opportunity to accompany Yu Yu Wei around Qin City. He didn't know about it before, but this time he noticed that half of the businesses in Qin City were under the Jinsui group. It could be said that Wei Gingqiu was the richest man in Qin City. In the past few days, Yu Yu Wei had completely integrated into the new environment of the school. Unlike the other girls in the dormitory, Yu Yu Wei was a person who loved to study. In the past few days, the place she and Li Changsheng went to the most wasn't the shopping mall or scenic spots, but the library. When Yu Yu Wei was reading in the library, Li Changsheng and she didn't disturb each other. They also casually flipped through some books in the library. However, Li Changsheng's reading speed was too fast. Rather than saying that he was reading, it was more accurate to say that he was flipping through the books. Other people might not even have enough time to read a book. If they were to take notes and study it carefully, it might take 3 or 4 days. However, Li Changsheng only needed half an hour to read a book. He came to the school library with Yu Yu Wei a few times. Because Yu Yu Wei was beautiful and polite, the old man in charge of the library had a good impression of Yu Yu Wei. As a result, he paid more attention to Li Changsheng, who accompanied Yu Yu Wei to the library every day. The old man saw Li Changsheng flipping through books for a few days. At first, he thought that Li Changsheng was looking for something that interested him. Later on, he realized that Li Changsheng was just casually flipping through the books. This caused the old man's good impression of Li Changsheng to be completely destroyed. Later on, when Li Changsheng accompanied Yu Yu Wei to the library, the old man kept a straight face. People who didn't know better would think that Yu Yu Wei was his granddaughter who had been kidnapped by Li Changsheng. In this regard, Li Changsheng was also very helpless. Was it wrong for him to have a photographic memory? He couldn't possibly slow down a few times just to please the old librarian and finish a book in half an hour, right? After a few more days, the people from the Heavenly Tao Union finally couldn't help but come looking for Li Changsheng. It was the same young man and woman who came looking for him. Li Changsheng joining the Heavenly Tao Union's northern faction as an elder wasn't a small matter. The status of a guest elder in the Heavenly Tao Union wasn't inferior to an elder with actual authority. The only difference was that a guest elder had less authority than an elder in the Heavenly Tao Union. Fu Guohao and his partner still didn't have a good impression of Li Changsheng. In their eyes, Li Changsheng wasn't even older than them. So how could he have the qualifications to sit on the same level as the respected elder Wei Gingqiu? When they arrived at the huge manor in the suburbs, Wei Gingqiu was already waiting for them at the entrance. Originally, a guest elder of the Heavenly Tao Union has to be acknowledged by the Heavenly Tao Union's Alliance Master before a grand succession ceremony is held in the Heavenly Tao Union. However, the Heavenly Tao Union's Alliance Master has gone into seclusion recently, and the 5 divisions of the Heavenly Tao Union are fighting over the Alliance Master's position. Therefore, everything has been simplified. Today, we have gathered all the important figures in the northern region and held a banquet. Then, Changsheng will officially become the guest elder of the Heavenly Tao Union's northern region. Hearing Wei Gingqiu's words, Li Changsheng nodded his head. Li Changsheng didn't really care about those flashy ceremonies. Even if it was a banquet, Li Changsheng didn't want to go through the trouble if he could save it. Today, all the important figures in the northern region are here. We are only waiting for you. Changsheng, the main character. A few days ago, Wei Gengxiu still addressed Li Changsheng as Mr. Li Changsheng. Today, he didn't even use his surname. This also meant that he treated Li Changsheng as a member of his family. Walking into the manor, the banquet was already set up in the back garden of the manor. Many of the upper echelons of the northern region had been waiting for a long time. Some of these people were wearing suits and looked cultured and refined. Some were wearing Tang suits and had an extraordinary bearing. Some were wearing Taoist robes and monk robes. There were all kinds of people. Seeing Li Changsheng appear, many people immediately looked at him curiously. This guest elder is so young. He is Mr. Li, the one whose name shook the capital. I also heard of his name some time ago. He trampled the entire capital with a single step. How impressive. I didn't expect him to be a young talent. Is he really as powerful as the rumors say? Is he qualified to be the guest elder and oversee the northern region on Elder Wei's behalf? Discussions could be heard from below. When Li Changsheng heard these words, he couldn't help but frown and look at Elder Wei beside him. Elder Wei, what do they mean by overseeing the northern region? Elder Wei smiled faintly. I haven't had the time to tell you. Our northern region is the weakest among the 5 branches of the Heaven Dao Union. The other branches have several elders, but the northern region only has me, Wei Gingxiu. Now that the Heaven Dao Union's Union Master has announced that he is going into seclusion as the leader of the northern region, I naturally have to fight for the position of Union Master. However, when I leave, the northern region will be like a group of dragons without a leader. Changsheng, as the elder with the highest status in the northern region, when I'm not around, you should naturally oversee the central region and coordinate the 4 regions. What? Li Changsheng couldn't help but open his mouth wide. He had become the guest elder of the Heaven Dao Union's northern region in a daze. He hadn't even officially assumed the post, but Elder Wei had already assigned him such a huge task. Changsheng, this heavy responsibility belongs to none other than you. I have investigated your deeds over the past few days. You helped Ding Qingyang and his sister take back the position of Mount Shu Sectmaster, made Qingqing's Sectmaster, Yin Shuanging, and Mount Shu's previous Sectmaster, Sima Changkong, willingly lowered their heads. You even killed the Huashan Sword Sect's Sectmaster, destroyed the Huashan Sect, entered the Miaojiang, suppressed the 6 great sacred lands, and made the major forces in the capital bow their heads. Every single one of these deeds is not something an ordinary person can do. I can only be at ease with you overseeing the northern region. While speaking, Wei Gingxiu had already led Li Changsheng to the innermost table. The people at the table were all older, and each of them had an extraordinary bearing. They should be the true powerhouses of the northern region. When Li Changsheng walked over, these people hurriedly stood up and bowed. Greetings, guest elder. Li Changsheng had joined the Heaven Dao Union and become the guest elder of the northern region. Nominally, he was on equal footing with Wei Gingxiu. His status was already above most people in the northern region. Today is to celebrate Elder Li joining the northern region. At the same time, it is also to let everyone get to know Elder Li. In the future, when I leave the northern region, everyone will have to listen to Elder Li's orders. Yes, everyone at the table nodded. Everyone, take your seats. Cheers to Elder Li joining the northern region. Wei Gingxiu was the first to raise his wine cup. Wait a minute. At this moment, Fu Guohao, who had endured for a few days, suddenly spoke. I heard that Elder Li is very powerful. It just so happens that I have created a new move, but I feel that it is not perfect enough. I would like to ask for your guidance. Chapter 524. Elder Li, I heard that you're very strong. It just so happens that I've created a new move recently, but there are still many imperfections. I'd like to ask for your guidance. Fu Guohao suddenly stood up and said. The lively atmosphere in the hall suddenly fell silent. Although he said that he was giving guidance, there was clearly a hint of provocation. Although Wei Gingxiu held Li Changsheng in high esteem, many of the people present still harbored doubts in their hearts. After all, Li Changsheng was really too young. He was too young and inexperienced. This was the view that people had formed long ago. Guahao, don't be rude. Wei Gengxiu suddenly slammed the table and stood up with his eyebrows raised. He had spent a lot of effort to recruit Li Changsheng. He personally respected Li Changsheng very much. If Fu Guahao's actions made Li Changsheng unhappy, then all his previous efforts would be in vain. When he saw Elder Wei getting angry, Fu Guahao subconsciously shrank his neck. As the supreme leader of the North, Elder Wei had great prestige. However, when he thought of letting this immature guy take charge of the North, Fu Guahao finally gritted his teeth, looked at Elder Wei stubbornly, and said loudly, "Since Mr. Li is so strong, don't tell me that you don't dare to teach a little pawn like me martial arts? Don't tell me that Mr. Li is fishing for fame and is just a facade?" As soon as his voice fell, there was no different from a thunderclap in the hall. Many people's hearts were in their mouths. This Fu Guahao was too bold. He simply dared to say anything. However, there were also many people who nodded in support of Fu Guahao. I think it's good to let Mr. Li give us some guidance. It's a good opportunity for us to see Mr. Li's strength. Guahao, it doesn't mean to be disrespectful to Mr. Li. Isn't it normal to give guidance on martial arts? Hearing these words, Wei Gengxiu couldn't help but frown. How could he not know that many people in the upper echelons of the North were not convinced that Li Changsheng was the guest elder? After all, Li Changsheng was too young, and he indeed needed to display his strength to convince others. Moreover, Wei Gengxiu's understanding of Li Changsheng was based on rumors. He had never seen Li Changsheng in action. Wei Gengxiu looked at Li Changsheng with a troubled expression. "All right, since little Fu wants me to give him some pointers, I'll help him perfect his cultivation technique." Li Changsheng stood up with a smile. However, Fu Guahao's face turned ugly when he kept calling him Xiao Fu. Li Changsheng looked to be in his early 20s, and Fu Guahao, at least in terms of appearance, was older than Li Changsheng. Moreover, he was just looking for an excuse to test Li Changsheng, but Li Changsheng actually said that he would give him pointers, which was simply arrogant. "I'm sorry, Mr. Li." Fu Guahao took a deep breath and suddenly straightened his body as he stood in the middle of the field. In that instant, a sharp aura was emitted from his body. It was like a javelin with a powerful sharpness. It was rare to have such a cultivation at such a young age. Many people in the field had a look of admiration. Fu Guahao often followed beside Wei Gengxiu and often received pointers from Wei Gengxiu. His strength was considered outstanding among the younger generation of the Heaven Dao Union. Therefore, many people looked at Li Changsheng, wanting to see how this guest elder would deal with Fu Guahao's challenge. Li Changsheng also left his seat and walked towards the field. However, he was lazy and his steps were light. There was no aura coming from his body. This Mr. Li's attitude is too lazy. He clearly doesn't put Fu Guahao in his eyes. Even if he is strong, he shouldn't be so arrogant. Fu Guahao isn't that easy to deal with. I think he will suffer. This Mr. Li has a reputation. It is normal for him to be young and frivolous. I don't know how strong he is, but he is quite arrogant. I hope that Fu Guahao can teach him a lesson so that he can recognize himself. Although Li Changsheng was now the guest elder of the Heaven Dao Union, he was still an outsider compared to Fu Guahao. Everyone was still on Fu Guahao's side. Moreover, Li Changsheng's lackadaisical attitude made many people unhappy. Fu Guahao, who was being looked down upon by Li Changsheng, revealed anger in his eyes. Fu Guahao squinted his eyes and shot out two cold lights. He suddenly took a step forward like an unsheathed sword and smashed towards Li Changsheng. Hula! The fist was like the wind, carrying a terrifying aura. A gale swept up under his feet. Li Changsheng stood on the opposite side, lazily. Facing the sudden attack, he didn't seem to care at all. Fu Guahao's full-powered attack looked majestic and awe-inspiring to outsiders. However, in Li Changsheng's eyes, it was full of flaws. Fist techniques were originally evolved from spear techniques. Now that Fu Guahao used his fist as a spear, it could be said that he had returned the essence of fist techniques. However, the spear was like a dragon. It was the weapon of the tyrant. The fist's aura was slightly lacking. Li Changsheng shook his head. He raised his hand and pressed it down like a shield, blocking the fist. At the same time, he grabbed Fu Guohao's wrist and squeezed it like an iron clamp. A force rushed into Fu Guohao's meridians, along his arm and blood vessels, and instantly spread throughout his body. Ah! Fu Guohao cried out in pain. At that moment, he felt as if thousands of steel needles had rushed into his body. In the next moment, his entire body was like a marionette. He couldn't control himself. Li Changsheng gently swung him, and his body flew out and landed 3 meters away. After landing, he took 5 or 6 steps back. After stabilizing his body with great difficulty, he felt his limbs go numb. The pain was still spreading throughout his body. It made him feel as if his body didn't belong to him and he couldn't control it. This move of yours uses your fist as a spear. However, it's not domineering enough. Moreover, the tyrant is indomitable. However, your fist technique lacks fist intent. If you want to perfect this move, you have to experience life and death situations. Fu Guohao was still in shock. Li Changsheng had already started to evaluate his move. The surroundings fell into silence. Fu Guohao's move was perfect even in the eyes of the crowd. They didn't expect Li Changsheng to break it so easily. And now, Li Changsheng's evaluation made many people feel enlightened and enlightened. Yes, Fu Guohao's fist seems perfect. He's like a handsome man. He has a good appearance, but no culture. He's rotten on the inside. After a long time, Fu Guohao breathed a sigh of relief. He cupped his hands to Li Changsheng and lowered his head. I've lost. I'm sincerely convinced. The woman who had been paying attention to the battlefield nodded her head slightly. She knew Fu Guohao's strength. Even Wei Gengqiu couldn't have done it so easily. At the very least, it proved that Li Changsheng was qualified to be the guest elder. Good. Wei Gengqiu immediately applauded. Mr. Li's exquisite kung fu is amazing. What's more, Mr. Li's insight is like a torch, pointing out Fu Guohao's imperfections. I have Elder Li in the north, so I can leave with peace of mind. As soon as Elder Wei spoke, the others in the field immediately applauded. Finally, no one questioned Li Changsheng's strength as the guest elder. Chapter 5:25. Everyone can drink to your heart's content now. Wei Gengqiu raised the wine cup in his hand. Having Li Changsheng as the guest elder had actually put a lot of pressure on him. Although he was the leader of the North and wielded great power, he still had to convince the masses. Mr. Li, let me give you a toast. Fu Guohao, who felt that his body had recovered, took the initiative to raise his wine cup. Martial artists respected the strong. In the past, he had a problem with Li Changsheng because he felt that Li Changsheng was still young and might not be as powerful as the rumors said. However, it was different now. After the battle just now, he was completely convinced by Li Changsheng. Work hard. Li Changsheng also raised his wine cup. Mr. Li, my name is Ouyang Ruo. In the future, when Old Man Wei is not around, I will assist you in handling the matters in the north. The woman took the initiative to extend her hand to Li Changsheng. After Old Man Wei left, I don't know much about the matters in the north. I will leave it to you guys to handle. Unless there is a provocation from an expert, I will still be able to deal with it. Li Changsheng smiled. He had always been someone who was afraid of trouble. Now that Old Man Wei wanted him to oversee the north, he had no choice but to reluctantly agree since he was the guest elder and there was no one to oversee the situation in the north. If he had to deal with those trivial matters, it would be a headache just thinking about it. We will definitely do our best to assist Mr. Li. Ouyang Ruo revealed a smile on her face. The surrounding people also nodded in their hearts. At least from the looks of it, Li Changsheng didn't show any desire for power. Such a person was exactly what they wanted. After all, they didn't want Li Changsheng to be an ingrate and immediately fight for power after Old Man Wei left, causing the North to become unstable. This time, the 5 divisions are vying for the position of the Heavenly Tao Union's union leader. It is abnormally intense. Actually, our North doesn't have much of an advantage, but we still have to fight for it. My northern region occupies the territory of 3 major provinces in the north, and there are various cultivation organizations there. In the past, when I was in charge, although the major organizations were restless, they didn't dare to show their faces. Once I leave, I'm afraid that no matter what kind of demon or devil they are, they will jump out. This is a good opportunity to get rid of them all in one fell swoop. My northern region will be very peaceful for the next 10 years. Hearing Wei Gengxiu's words, even the upper echelons of the northern region were shocked. Who would have thought that Old Man Wei would spend so much effort to invite Li Changsheng as a guest elder just so that Li Changsheng could take advantage of his absence to wipe out the hidden forces in the north? This was definitely a difficult task. Could he really do it? Not to mention these people. Even Li Changsheng was a little surprised. This Elder Wei could be said to be astute. Just by giving him the title of guest elder, Old Man Wei wanted him to work himself to the bone to wipe out the restless forces in the north. In ancient times, this was the role of the northern general quelling rebellions. This was truly a good plan. Of course, although Mr. Li has joined my northern region and become a guest elder, I won't let Mr. work for nothing. After this matter is done, I can guarantee Mr. that all of Mr.'s relatives and friends will be protected by the Heavenly Tao Union and the officials. This is presumably what Mr. is most concerned about. Sure enough, Wei Gengxiu's words moved Li Changsheng. Although Li Changsheng's martial prowess was outstanding and he could traverse the world unhindered, very few people were worthy of his attention. However, his family and friends were his only weakness. After all, no matter how strong he was, he couldn't take care of everything. He couldn't bring everyone he knew by his side. The Heavenly Tao Union represented the official power and was the embroidered uniform guard of the entire cultivation world. With their protection, Li Changsheng could indeed get rid of his worries. Okay, I agree. Li Changsheng nodded. Good. Wei Gengxiu raised his wine cup. Let me give a toast to Elder Li. Everyone, let's give a toast to Elder Li. Thus, everyone raised their wine cups. After drinking, Li Changsheng couldn't help but sigh. He had been fooled by Old Man Wei just like that, and he had done it willingly. Sure enough, an old man who didn't die was a demon. This old man looked very sincere on the surface, but he was full of tricks. After the banquet, Li Changsheng officially became the guest elder of the Heavenly Tao Union's northern region. Nominally, he was on equal footing with Wei Gengxiu. After Wei Gengxiu left Qin City, Li Changsheng was officially in charge of the northern region. In a huge manor, there was a magnificent villa that was specially prepared for Li Changsheng. Fu Guohao, Ouyang Ruo, and Yin Tianming were assisting Li Changsheng in his daily work. In fact, Li Changsheng said that he was in charge of the work, but he just practiced martial arts in the courtyard every day to cultivate his body and mind. He wasn't willing to take care of the specific work, and he didn't need to. Wei Gengxiu was interested in Li Changsheng's martial strength. Ever since Fu Guohao witnessed Li Changsheng's strength that day, he often consulted Li Changsheng for guidance. Sometimes Li Changsheng's casual words would have an enlightening effect on him. He admired Li Changsheng more and more. Apart from cultivation, Li Changsheng went to Qin City to look for Yu Wei. Although these days were dull, Li Changsheng enjoyed it very much. Sometimes, he thought that it would be good if he could live a peaceful life like this. Of course, he knew that it was impossible. Elder Li, the news of Elder Wei's departure from Qin City has been spread out. Recently, several waves of forces have been a little restless. Because Qin City is the headquarters of the northern region, it is relatively calm. However, several other regions have begun to have trouble, especially Shuo City, which is adjacent to Qin City. There is a spirit mine that I have mined in the northern region. In the past few days, many people have gone there to cause trouble. I'm afraid that Elder Wei will have to go there and take charge. The spirit mine is the root of my northern region. If the spirit stones are taken away by others, it will be a great loss. If we lose, we will be in trouble. Spirit mine? Li Changsheng's eyes lit up with surprise. However, after thinking about it, how could a large faction like the Heavenly Tao Union not have spirit stones to support so many cultivators? The spirit mine was rich in spirit qi, making it a good place for cultivation. Although Li Changsheng had been a guest elder, and someone would send spirit stones to Li Changsheng every day for his cultivation, those spirit stones were more than enough for ordinary cultivators. However, for Li Changsheng, who was cultivating the 9 revolutions divine demon, it was just a drop in the ocean. However, the spirit mine was different. If it could form a spirit mine, it meant that there was a spirit vein that gathered spirit qi. To Li Changsheng, it was definitely a blessed land. Li Changsheng nodded. All right, let's set off now. Ouyang Ruo did not expect Li Changsheng to be so swift and decisive. For the past few days, she had seen Li Changsheng go shopping with Yu Wei every day. She was afraid that Li Changsheng would not bear to leave his tender home. Now, those doubts were completely dispelled. All right, I will immediately make the arrangements. Although Li Changsheng had displayed his unfathomable strength that day, it was just a sparring session. As for the spirit mine, that was the real battlefield. I'd like to see just how strong you are, Mr. Li. Ouyang Ruo was looking forward to it. Chapter 5:26. Shuo City and Qin City were neighbors. When Li Changsheng sat in the car and entered Shuo City, he could clearly feel that the spirit qi had become abundant. It seems that the spirit vein in the north of the Heavenly Tao Union is very likely to be a large spirit vein. At the very least, it should be a medium spirit vein. Li Changsheng's face was filled with joy. He knew that this trip would not be in vain. Fu Guohao was driving while Ouyang Ruo sat in the front passenger seat. Seeing Li Changsheng smile from the rearview mirror, Ouyang Ruo could not help but ask, "Elderly, it seems that you are not worried about this trip to Shuo City at all. What is there to be worried about? It's just to intimidate some snakes, insects, rats, and ants." Li Changsheng smiled faintly. Indeed, in his eyes, a force that could intimidate Wei Gengxiu was not worthy of his attention. One must know that Wei Gengxiu's cultivation had just entered the mysterious finger realm. With such strength, he would be considered a super expert in the entire cultivation world. However, in Li Changsheng's eyes, he was just SOSO. Seeing Li Changsheng's indifference, Ouyang Ruo did not know what to say. Shuo City is a place where dragons and snakes mix together. There are a few famous cultivation forces there. When Duan Yu is in charge, he is also very vigilant and has to be careful when dealing with them. In Ouyang Ruo's heart, Li Changsheng was very powerful. She definitely did not believe that he was more powerful than Elder Wei. After the car entered Shuo City, they arrived at the Heavenly Tao Union's encampment. The person in charge of Shuo City was a chief steward in the north of the Heavenly Tao Union. In the Heavenly Tao Union, the chief steward's position was second only to the elders. This chief steward was a Vajra realm expert named Duan Yu. On the way, Ouyang Ruo introduced him to Li Changsheng. He was originally an ordinary martial artist in the mortal world. In the end, he cultivated the mortal world's martial arts to the extreme. With his super talent and the convenience of guarding the spirit mine, his martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds. In the entire north, he was a first-class expert. Of course, a person with great strength would naturally have pride. The car stopped in front of the encampment, and a sturdy man led a group of men to welcome them. Steward Duan. When Ouyang Ruo and Fu Guohao saw the muscular man, Duan Yu, they took the initiative to greet him. In the north, although Ouyang Ruo and Fu Guohao were close subordinates of Elder Wei, they were still several levels lower than Duan Yu. It must have been hard on you. Duan Yu nodded, then looked at Li Changsheng and frowned slightly. You are Northern Region's new guest elder. Li Changsheng? So young? Hello. Li Changsheng was now considered a member of the Northern Alliance, so when he saw the other party, he took the initiative to extend his hand. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't shake Li Changsheng's hand. Instead, he sized up Li Changsheng again and said, "Recently, several major forces in Shuo City have been stirring up. There are several Vajra realm martial artists among them. I don't think you can deal with them. You should inform Elder Wei as soon as possible and see how to deal with them." Hearing his words, Ouyang Ruo, and Fu Guahao both revealed awkward expressions. The other party's words clearly showed that he looked down on Li Changsheng. Elder Wei has already handed over the north to me when he left, so let me handle it. Li Changsheng's face also sank. These martial artists were naturally arrogant, which he could understand. However, the other party said such words in front of so many people, which was tantamount to putting him in his place. After Li Changsheng finished speaking, he walked directly into the courtyard. A trace of coldness flashed in Duan Yu's eyes, but he didn't say anything. Everyone entered the hall and sat down. Li Changsheng sat on the main seat, picked up the tea on the table, and took a sip, then looked at Duan Yu. Tell me the basic situation of Shuo City now. Unexpectedly, Duan Yu shook his head and said, Elderly, I still think we should inform Elder Wei first. I said, I'm in charge here now. Li Changsheng raised his eyebrows, and his eyes revealed a bit of sharpness. Since he was now in charge of the north, naturally, no one could question him. Li Changsheng's tone made Duan Yu very unhappy, and he suddenly slammed the table and stood up. I'm the chief steward of Shuo City, personally appointed by Elder Wei. In the north, other than Elder Wei, if anyone wants to give me orders, they'd better show their own weight first. After Duan Yu said this, the hall suddenly fell into silence, and even the atmosphere became solemn. Duan Yu's words were tantamount to falling out. Elderly Steward Duan Ouyang Ruo saw this situation and hurriedly stood up, wanting to mediate. However, Li Changsheng disappeared from his original position, and an afterimage instantly rushed to Duan Yu's side. Bang! A loud noise. The chief steward of Shuo City in the north of the Heavenly Tao Alliance was directly sent flying. By the time everyone reacted, Li Changsheng had already returned to his seat. Duan Yu's body fell heavily to the ground, and when he got up from the ground, his eyes were full of horror. From the beginning to the end, he didn't even have time to react. Bang, 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 bang. In the hall, some of the people of Shuo City looked at Li Changsheng with hostility. At this moment, Duan Yu struggled to stand up from the ground and gestured to his subordinates to not act rashly. He took a deep breath and cupped his hands towards Li Changsheng. Your Excellency's martial arts are powerful, and I'm convinced. Li Changsheng curled his lips in thought. These people from the Heavenly Tao Alliance are all wretched bones. If we can get the spirit stones in the spirit mine, we will have enough for our cultivation for the next 10 years. After so many years, we have finally waited for that old fox Wei Gengxiu to leave. We can't give up our plan just because of a guest elder that we have never heard of, right? Miao Huntao placed a teacup on the table and looked at Wei Xilan. He and Wei Xilan were fellow disciples, and they had been supporting each other all these years. They had originally planned to take action on the Heavenly Tao Alliance's spirit mine, but Wei Xilan suddenly came to find them. She must have heard something. Chapter 527. I originally had the same thoughts as you. As long as that old fox leaves, it will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us wandering cultivators. Over the past few years, the Heavenly Law Alliance has been relying on its great power to occupy so many spirit mines, making it extremely difficult for us wandering cultivators to obtain even a little bit of cultivation resources. However, after I made a lot of inquiries, I found out that the Heavenly Law Alliance's new guest elder in the northern region isn't ordinary. Wei Xilan's voice was serious. His name is Li Changsheng. Before he joined the Heavenly Tao Alliance, he was not a nobody. Other than being the guest elder of the Heavenly Tao Alliance, he also has another identity. He is the leader of the Sword Tao Alliance. In the past year, he has appeared out of nowhere. First, he helped the Mount Shu sect leader, Ding Qingyang, and Ding Qingxue to regain the position of sect leader. Then, he killed the leader of the Mount Hua sect and challenged the 6 great sanctuaries. Some time ago, he even defeated the #1 expert on the night roll, the Soul Master Tony. He is very famous. It is said that in the international arena, all the major forces have listed him as the most dangerous person. Who is this Li Changsheng? How can he be so powerful? After hearing Wei Xilan's words, Miao Huntao's expression turned serious. After my investigation and many speculations, this Li Changsheng is most likely from the Forbidden Lands. Otherwise, it is impossible to explain how he can be so powerful at such a young age. After Wei Xilan finished speaking, Miao Huntao's expression finally changed. Every once in a while, a successor would appear in the Forbidden Land. Every one of them was a prominent and famous figure with great strength. Miao Huntao even dared to rob the Heavenly Tao Alliance's spiritual minds. However, when he heard about the Forbidden Lands, he was shocked. The Heavenly Tao Alliance claims to be the leader of the martial arts world. They have occupied a large amount of resources in the cultivation world. This has caused dissatisfaction among the various forces. Now, even the people from the Forbidden Lands are involved. However, as the successor of the Forbidden Lands, he would not be willing to be controlled by the Heavenly Tao Alliance. Then, why did he join the Heavenly Tao Alliance? Miao Huntao frowned and looked at Wei Xilan. Sister Wei, you have always been resourceful. What do you think we should do next? Are we going to snatch the spirit stones or not? In my opinion, we shouldn't act rashly. Why don't we pay a visit to this Li Changsheng in the name of a fellow Wulin practitioner? It won't be too late to make a move after we find out more about him. That makes sense. On a mountain in the wilderness of Shuo City, there was an elegantly decorated courtyard. In the courtyard, Li Changsheng was sitting cross-legged on top of the rockery. The rays of the sun shone on his body, forming a halo around him, making him look like a god descending to the mortal world. In movies, it was often said to absorb the essence of the sun and the moon, and Li Changsheng was now absorbing the essence of the sun. In many legends, all kinds of monsters relied on moonlight to cultivate, but they didn't know that sunlight also contained powerful energy. However, the great yang qi was too violent. Ordinary cultivators would not be able to withstand it. Only Li Changsheng, who cultivated the 9 transformations of the fiend god, dared to use his great yang qi to temper his meridians and strengthen his physique. After coming to Shuo City, Duan Yu originally wanted to arrange for Li Changsheng to stay in the headquarters, but Li Changsheng directly requested to stay in the spirit mine. This was because the spirit energy around the spirit mine was abundant. Just as Li Changsheng had guessed, there was a large spirit vein under the spirit mine, and this villa was near the spirit vein. Li Changsheng set up a large spirit gathering array to gather the spirit energy. In the past few days, Li Changsheng cultivated in the courtyard for a day, which was comparable to cultivating outside for a month. Mr. Li, the meal is ready. It's time to eat. Ouyang Ruo, who was wearing an apron, stood at the door and shouted with a smile. As the manager of the Heavenly Tao Union's northern region, Ouyang Ruo was famous for her bad temper and cold personality. However, in the past few days, she had completely transformed into a housewife. Okay, I'll be right there. Li Changsheng opened his eyes and jumped down from the rockery. Beside him, Fu Guohao also stopped cultivating. In the past few days, he had been by Li Changsheng's side. If he had any questions, he would ask Li Changsheng for advice. In addition, Li Changsheng had set up a spirit gathering array around the courtyard, which made the place rich in spirit energy. This made him feel that his martial arts had improved by leaps and bounds. Mr. Li, I followed your instructions today and made a few medicinal dishes. Not only are they delicious, but they can also strengthen the blood and circulate the meridians. Ouyang Ruo said, as if she was presenting a treasure. In the past few days, some of the prejudice she had against Li Changsheng had disappeared. In addition, Li Changsheng occasionally gave her some pointers, which made her admire Li Changsheng even more. It's been hard on you to make so many dishes. Li Changsheng smiled faintly. Unfortunately, I'm afraid this meal won't be so peaceful. As he spoke, Li Changsheng looked at the door. In the next moment, the door of the courtyard was pushed open. 2 figures appeared at the door. It was Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan. Other than Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan, the chief steward of Shuo City, Duan Yu, also appeared. Duan Yu frowned, and his eyes were filled with caution. Li Changsheng might not be familiar with Miao Hun Tao, but Duan Yu is very familiar with him. These two were famous among the rogue cultivators in the north. When Wei Gengxiu left the north this time, he was most worried that these two would take the opportunity to cause trouble. I wonder which one of you is the guest elder of the Heaven's Path Alliance, Li Changsheng? Miao Hun Tao did not care about the hostile Duan Yu behind him. Instead, he looked at the three people in the courtyard: Fu Guohao, Ouyang Ruo, and Li Changsheng. Ouyang Ruo was a woman, so she was naturally excluded. Only Fu Guohao and Li Changsheng were left. Who are you? Who let you barge into the courtyard? Fu Guohao stood out and snorted. From Duan Yu's attitude, he knew that these two were not friends. In addition, he had been learning from Li Changsheng these days, and his martial arts had improved tremendously. He was itching to fight, so he could not help but stand out. You are Mr. Li? Miao Hun Tao frowned, and his eyes were filled with contempt. How could he not see that Fu Guohao's strength was only in the innate realm? In the world of cultivation, the younger generation was considered a master. However, compared to him, there was still a big gap. Why do you care who I am? This is the territory of the Heaven's Path Alliance. Not just anyone can barge in. Fu Guohao took 2 steps forward and stood in front of Miao Hun Tao. Since you're not Li Changsheng, then get out of my way. Miao Hun Tao snorted and suddenly raised his hand to hit Fu Guohao. Fu Guohao raised his fist and collided with the opponent's palm. Bang! With a loud sound, he took 5 steps back. When he stopped, his face was filled with astonishment. When the opponent made his move, Duan Yu and Ouyang Ruo were shocked. To be able to push Fu Guohao back so easily, it was obvious that the opponent's strength was not ordinary. Fu Guohao, who was pushed back, was unconvinced. He clenched his fist and was about to charge forward again, but Li Changsheng raised his hand to stop him. He is at the peak stage of the Vajra realm. He showed mercy earlier. You're not his match. Chapter 528. I heard that the Heavenly Tao Alliance has a new guest elder. He has just been appointed, and he is already sitting with the leader of the North, Wei Gengxiu. You are indeed a hero, Miao Hun Tao said cheerfully. He was surprised by Li Changsheng's age. The guest elder of the Heavenly Tao Alliance had a high status in the entire world of cultivation. Li Changsheng looked like he was in his 20s. Even if he could slow down aging through cultivation, it was still very impressive. May I know who you are? Li Changsheng stepped forward and asked with a frown. Fu Guohao was now his subordinate. He was defeated by Miao Hun Tao in front of him. This was considered a challenge to Li Changsheng's dignity. I'm Miao Hun Tao. This is my junior sister, Wei Xilan. Duan Yu walked quickly to Li Changsheng and said in a low voice, These two are famous itinerant cultivators in the north. They are very powerful in the world of cultivation in the north. They are also the troublemakers that Old Man Wei is most worried about. They are both at the peak of the Vajra realm. If they work together, they can go against Old Man Wei. Duan Yu frowned with a gloomy face. He was worried. Although he had seen Li Changsheng's strength, he was still not confident about facing these two people. Why are you looking for me? Fu Guohao is my subordinate. How dare you attack me here? Are you trying to get your hands on the spirit mine just because Elder Wei Gengxiu left the north? Li Changsheng took a few steps forward and said coldly, Those who came did not come with good intentions. Everyone knew that these two people were up to no good. We heard that the new guest elder of the Heavenly Tao Alliance had come to the Shuo city, so we came to pay you a visit. We have no other intentions. If you think that we are provoking you, then there is nothing I can do. Miao Hun Tao shrugged his shoulders. However, since you are able to become the guest elder of the Heavenly Tao Alliance at such a young age, I would like to spar with you. Miao Hun Tao smiled and moved his palms. This time, he and Wei Xilan were here to find out what was going on. The spiritual mine in the north was a big piece of meat. Which cultivator would not covet it? If Li Changsheng was strong enough, then they would naturally give up on the idea. If Li Changsheng was just an undeserved reputation, then they would naturally make a move to snatch it. Since you want to ask for guidance, please, Li Changsheng said. When he arrived in Shuo City, he knew that the following days would not be so peaceful, but he did not expect the other party to come to him in such a way. Then I'll be offending you. Miao Hun Tao coldly snorted and took a big stride forward. His body turned into an afterimage and shot towards Li Changsheng like an arrow leaving the bow. So, because he was moving too fast, a whistling sound could be heard in the air. The surrounding people automatically made way for him. Miao Hun Tao was a famous rogue cultivator in the north. He was very powerful and had many impressive battle records. As for Li Changsheng, he was the current guest elder of the Heavenly Tao Union. Whether it was Fu Guohao, Ouyang Ruo, or Chief Manager Duan Yu, they had all experienced his skills. Bang! When the fist came, it caused a strong wind to blow before it even got close. Such a fist was incomparably ferocious. Even a huge rock could be smashed into pieces with a single punch. Of course, this was just Miao Hun Tao's probing move. A Vajra realm martial expert had already reached the pinnacle of martial arts. When they truly made a move, they were like a human-shaped Tyrannosaurus. You're thinking too highly of yourself if you dare to hold back when you're making a move against me. Li Changsheng lightly curled his lips. At this moment, the fist had already reached Li Changsheng's chest. The huge fist force had yet to get close to Li Changsheng's body, but the strong wind was already as sharp as a knife. If it was someone who was not strong enough, their mind would have been shaken to the point that they would have lost their mind. However, the person he was facing was Li Changsheng. He stepped aside lightly and dodged his opponent's fist. Then he suddenly raised his palm and grabbed his opponent's wrist. With a sharp knee strike, he directly hit his opponent's lower abdomen. Li Changsheng's series of moves were as smooth as flowing water. His opponent was testing him. Similarly, he did not use any advanced spells. He only used the simplest martial arts of the human world. It was a casual attack, but Miao Hun Tao's expression instantly changed. As a well-known figure in the northern cultivation world, when he saw Li Changsheng just now, he had already underestimated him. However, when his lower abdomen was hit by Li Changsheng's knee, he instantly felt a sharp pain in his lower abdomen. His body flew backward like a kite with a broken string. However, before he could land on the ground, he stomped his foot in the air and stopped himself. At the same time, he waved his hands and slapped down. A huge palm print formed in the air and slapped down on Li Changsheng. He had finally used his own Dao technique. When Wei Xilan saw this, the calm expression on her face disappeared. It was replaced by a solemn expression. Miao Hun Tao was her senior brother. Naturally, she knew his abilities. However, he was forced to use his Dao technique by Li Changsheng just now. Kaboom! The transparent palm pressed down from the sky. Because it was so fast, the air currents surged wildly under the palm. A strong wind swept up from the ground. Miao Hun Tao's move was called the Seven Merciless Palm. It was also the move that made him famous. Since he started his journey into Jianghu, countless people had died under his palm. Originally, Miao Hun Tao only used this move when he met those famous old monsters. It was his ultimate move. However, the two of them had just started fighting, and he was forced to use this move. The name of the Seven Merciless Palm was as ferocious as its power. If one was hit by this palm, not only would the strong palm energy hurt the person's body, the dark yin qi contained in it would instantly invade the person's soul. Miao Hun Tao had just been defeated by Li Changsheng with one move and felt that he had lost face. He was determined to regain his face with this move. This palm is somewhat interesting. Li Changsheng thought that after defeating Miao Hun Tao with one move, his opponent would rush up and compete with him in martial arts. He did not expect his opponent to be so straightforward and immediately use his ultimate move. Such an attack was already in the category of Dao techniques. However, when his opponent's palm fell, Li Changsheng's eyes suddenly burst with light. He raised his hand and clenched it into a fist. Like a long spear piercing the sky, it shot out. Hula! It was like a roaring dragon. The fist energy flew out from Li Changxing's palm and instantly pierced Miao Huntao's palm energy. It whistled and pierced into his chest. This punch was majestic. It was not that Li Changxing really wanted to kill Miao Huntao. It was just that with his strength, even if it was only 1/10 of his strength, it was not something that Miao Huntao could block. The huge fist energy stirred up the wind and clouds. It was frightening and drew a trace in the sky. Anyone who saw Li Changxing's punch felt their mind shake. Even a tank would be torn apart by this punch. Hiss! Miao Huntao's face changed drastically and he gasped. The strong wind blew in his face, making it difficult for him to breathe. He hurriedly used the 1,000-pound fall and fell to the ground as fast as he could, trying to avoid Li Changxing's attack. Bang! Before his body could land on the ground, the fist energy whistled past and brushed past his head. A stream of blood spurted out from his head. The huge fist energy fell on the rocks behind him and shattered a rock the size of a house. At the same time, it blasted a big hole in the ground before stopping. Chapter 529. At that moment, Miao Huntao touched the blood on his head with a look of lingering fear. If he had been slightly slower, he would have been dead by now. Again, Li Changxing dashed towards Miao Huntao, rubbing against the ground. He was like a galloping horse. Wherever his feet landed, there would be a row of deep pits. Boom, boom. His fists brought about a loud boom as he charged towards his enemy like a cannonball. In Miao Huntao's eyes, a fist was getting bigger and bigger. Then he heard the sound of his chest breaking. It was as if he had been hit by a high-speed train. He was sent flying backwards. Oh no! Seeing Miao Huntao being sent flying, Wei Xilan, who was watching from the side, was shocked. She clapped her hands, and a long red whip pierced through the air like a venomous snake, attacking Li Changxing. This woman's strength was on par with Miao Huntao's. Facing the long whip whistling towards his temple, Li Changxing was completely unconcerned. The corner of his mouth only revealed a trace of a cold smile. He raised his hand and just happened to catch the whip with 2 fingers. Wei Xilan's attack stopped abruptly. Her face was filled with disbelief. Duan Yu, Ouyang Rual, and the rest who were watching the fight were also shocked. Wei Xilan was famous in the north. Otherwise, she would not have dared to go against the Heavens Law Union, especially the long whip in her hand. It was even more vicious and vicious. In terms of reputation, she was even more famous than her senior brother, Miao Huntao. However, her attack was stopped by Li Changxing. Open up. Wei Xilan squinted her eyes, revealing a cold look. She waved her hand, and a red light was emitted from her energy center. It went through her palm and into the long whip. Suddenly, the shadow of a ferocious red venomous snake slithered along the long whip towards Li Changxing's palm. Wei Xilan and Miao Huntao came from the same source. Miao Huntao's 7 merciless palm was actually a type of snake venom. Wei Xilan was naturally a master of poison. This scarlet venomous snake was congealed using the 10,000 snake venom. Even a Vajra realm martial expert would lose half of his life if the venom invaded his body. If Li Changxing dared to grab her whip with his fingers, she would use the poison to poison Li Changxing's body. Li Changxing didn't care about the venomous snake phantom that was emitting a corrosive aura. When the venomous snake was about to bite his finger, he suddenly extended his right hand and grabbed the venomous snake's 7 inches. At the same time, he could see the huge shadow of the venomous snake continuously struggling. Then, with a wave of his hand, the venomous snake phantom exploded into a ball in the air, and the red venomous creature dissipated in the air. Wei Xilan's expression changed completely. Her venomous snake shadow was not real, it was just an illusion. However, Li Changxing was able to grab hold of it. Furthermore, the venomous snake came from her dantian and would definitely die if it was touched. Even if it was destroyed, it would instantly reappear in her dantian. However, after being killed by Li Changxing, the venomous creature that she had spent so much effort to congeal seemed to have completely disappeared from the world. Without giving her too much time to be shocked, Li Changxing's fingers that were holding the whip suddenly flung it forcefully. In the next moment, the scarlet whip broke in layers. At the same time, an invisible force traveled through the whip and into Wei Xilan's body. Bang! By the time Wei Xilan reacted and wanted to let go of the whip, it was already too late. She could only feel a heart-wrenching pain in her arm. Her entire body was sent flying by the powerful force. She landed on the ground and took a few steps back before she could stabilize herself. She had originally discussed with her senior brother Miao Huntao to test Li Changxing's strength. However, the two of them had lost to Li Changxing in less than 2 minutes of Li Changxing's fight. At this moment, Miao Huntao had already stood up from the ground while clutching his chest. His chest had caved in and his mouth was filled with blood. However, he was still a Vajra realm martial artist. If this injury had been inflicted on an ordinary person, it would have been fatal. However, Miao Huntao only felt that his blood was slightly weak. On the other hand, after Wei Xilan had stabilized herself, she stared at Li Changxing. Before coming here, she had imagined Li Changxing's strength. In her opinion, no matter how strong Li Changxing was, he would at most be on par with Wei Gingxiu. However, the two of them could fight Wei Gingxiu together. That was why they dared to come here. However, now it seemed that Li Changxing's strength was more than just one level higher than Wei Gingxiu's. In other words, if Li Changxing wanted to, the two of them would have to die here today. Mr. Li's skills are divine, and his divine power is unparalleled. I am convinced. Wei Xilan took a deep breath and lowered her arrogant head. Beside her, Miao Huntao had a bitter smile on his face. The two of them were famous in the cultivation world in the north. They dared to go against the Heaven's Way Alliance, and the Heaven's Way Alliance could not do anything to them. The two of them were almost like spiritual leaders among the independent cultivators. Now that they had fought together and lost so badly, he would not be able to face anyone in the future. You are so powerful. I am convinced that I have lost. From now on, I will definitely not have any ideas about the Heaven's Way Alliance's spirit mine. After witnessing Li Changxing's strength, Miao Huntao did not dare to have any other ideas. At the same time, he finally understood why Wei Gingxiu would leave the north so easily. With a master like Li Changxing in charge, no matter how many masters came, it would be useless. However, what he did not know was that Li Changxing had not even used 1/10 of his strength. If Li Changxing had really used his full strength, they would have realized how ridiculous their previous thoughts were. I did not want to ask about the grudges between you and the Heaven's Way Alliance. However, now that I have become the guest elder of the North and have promised Old Man Wei to take charge of the North, I will not allow you to have any ideas about the spirit mine. I will not argue with you about what happened today. If there's a next time, I guarantee that you will not even have the chance to attack. Li Changxing said calmly. His words were arrogant. However, to be able to defeat the two of them together had proven his strength. Senior brother, are you all right? Wei Xilan looked at Miao Huntao's chest that had caved in and was concerned. Miao Huntao shook his head. He took out a pill from his pocket and swallowed it. He closed his eyes and opened them again after half a minute. The wound on his chest seemed to have healed. Although the aura on his body was still a little weak, he should be fine now. Mr. Li, you are so powerful. The two of us are convinced. We will take our leave now and apologize to you another day. Since Miao Huntao had lost to Li Changxing, he did not have the face to stay any longer. He was about to leave. Faction leader Miao, Heroine Wei, I heard that you are here to visit the new guest elder of the Heaven's Way Alliance. Why didn't you inform your old friends? At this moment, a voice was heard from the mountain range in the distance. Soon after, 7 or 8 figures dressed in various colors approached them like galloping horses. They were very close. There were men and women, old and young. The only thing they had in common was that they all had a strong aura. All of them were martial cultivators and super strong martial artists in the Vajra realm. After these people appeared, they cupped their hands at Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan. Then, they looked at Li Changxing with a cold smile. You must be the new guest elder of the Heaven's Way Alliance. we have been cultivating recently and are short on spiritual stones. I heard that the Heaven's Way Alliance has stored a lot of spiritual stones in the warehouse in Shua City. Due to our cultivation, we would like to borrow some from you. I wonder if you could open the door of the spiritual stone warehouse for us to take some spiritual stones for our cultivation. As soon as the other party finished speaking, Fu Guahao and the others' faces darkened. Borrowing spiritual stones? It was obvious that they were here to rob them. Chapter 530. There was a total of 8 people who appeared behind them. Each of them had a strong aura and were extraordinarily powerful. Why are you guys here? Miao Hun Tao and Wei Xilan were both surprised. In the Northern Independent Cultivator world, other than the 2 of them, these 8 people were the strongest in the Independent Cultivator world. Elderly, what do you think of my suggestion? An old man in a Taoist robe had a ferocious look on his face. He looked at Li Changsheng with a half-smile. The 8 Vajra realm martial artists appeared at the same time. They were obviously determined to get the spirit stones stored in the spirit mine. Aren't you guys a little too much? Isn't it a little shameless for the 8 of you to appear together? These people didn't appear earlier or later, but instead appeared after the martial arts competition between the 2 of them and Li Changsheng had ended. It was obvious that they were planning to take advantage of the fight between the crane and the clam. Faction leader Miao, why are you so angry? We thought that by the time we appeared, the 2 of you would have already taken down the new guest elder in the north. However, it seems like the 2 of you were the ones who were defeated. However, this is not important. I believe that the 2 of you have already depleted most of Elder Li's strength. Wei Gingxiu, that old fox, actually left him behind to guard. He is indeed something. However, even Wei Gingxiu did not expect the 8 of us to team up. Don't worry, the 8 of us will avenge you. However, the spirit mine will not be shared between the 2 of you. Huh. The Taoist man had a sinister look on his face. He looked like a pack of wolves looking at a little sheep. You guys are really shameless. Miao Huntao stood aside. It was obvious that he did not want to get involved. If he hadn't been injured, with his status in the cultivation world of the north, he and his junior sister would naturally get a share of the spirit stones if these 8 people wanted to snatch the heavenly Tao Union spirit stones. However, now that he and his junior sister were injured, they naturally lost the right to divide the spirit stones. Although Li Changsheng was powerful, he still had doubts about the outcome of the 8 of them. After all, 8 Vajra realm martial artists were definitely a terrifying force. It seems like you're certain that you can defeat me. Li Changsheng suddenly opened his mouth, revealing a cold smile. The moment these 8 people appeared, they acted as if they had everything under control. They treated him like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Furthermore, they appeared at the right time. Their intentions were vicious. Compared to Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan, who came to challenge him openly, they seemed even more sinister. Isn't that so? The middle-aged Taoist laughed. The others also had mocking looks in their eyes. Of course not. Li Changsheng smiled coldly. Since I am now overseeing the north, the spirit mine is not something that anyone can covet. If you want to take the spirit stones from the spirit mine from my hands, I think you've made a mistake. Looks like you want money more than your life. The Taoist snorted coldly and pulled out the long sword in his hand. Since that's the case, we'll kill you first, then we'll split the spirit stones stored in your northern spirit mine. The 8 of them took a step forward at the same time. A terrifying aura came crashing down like a tsunami. Even Fu Guahao, Duan Yu, and the others' faces changed drastically. If 8 Vajra realm martial artists were to fight, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, at this moment, Li Changsheng suddenly snorted coldly. You don't know what's good for you. In the next moment, the middle-aged Taoist hand that was holding the sword trembled. His entire body swayed a few times. Then, tears of blood flowed from his eyes. With a plop, he fell to the ground dead. Li Changsheng's strength was terrifying. His mental energy was like the ocean. That snort just now had actually caused his terrifying mental energy to invade the middle-aged Taoist spiritual soul along with his sound wave, destroying his spiritual soul. This was the terrifying part about Li Changsheng. Sound waves could kill without a trace. Even a finger-profound realm martial artist could not withstand a single blow from him, let alone a Vajra realm martial artist. You'd better retract your killing intent. Otherwise, I guarantee that you'll end up like him in less than a second. Li Changsheng said indifferently without any emotion. It was as if the person in front of him was just a stray dog by the roadside. At this moment, Miao Huntao's eyes were filled with horror. In the secular world, there were many ways to use sound waves to deal with enemies. For example, the Shaolin Temple's Lion Roar technique and the Demon Dao's Sky Devil's Ether. However, Li Changsheng could kill a Vajra realm martial artist with just a snort. This was already considered a divine ability. Even Miao Huntao's master might not have such strength. Li Changsheng glanced at the remaining 7 people indifferently. When his gaze landed on them, the 7 of them hurriedly withdrew their aura and lowered their heads. No one wanted to become the second middle-aged Taoist. Li Changsheng's display of martial arts just now was too frightening, completely shocking to few of them. A group of ants actually dare to have ideas about me. You're simply courting death. I am too lazy to bother with you. Hurry up and get out of here. When the word "get out" came out, it was like rolling thunder. It formed a gust of wind and blew the withered leaves under his feet in all directions. The few of them didn't dare to say anything. They hurriedly turned around and fled into the distance. However, one of the old men who was dressed as a monk still had some hesitation on his face. He always felt that the middle-aged Taoist's death was too strange. If he was scared away just like that, he wouldn't be convinced. However, the strength that Li Changsheng displayed was too terrifying. He didn't dare to go against Li Changsheng openly. Instead, he cupped his hands and said, "Elder Li." Before he could finish his words, Li Changsheng raised his eyebrows. Blue lightning flew out from his eyes and spread directly towards the old monk. Kacha! Lightning was generated in the void. This was the ultimate skill that Tony used when Li Changsheng fought with the psychic master Tony. In fact, it was just a manifestation of psychic energy. Li Changsheng casually created it. In the next moment, the old monk's eyes were filled with fear. His body stiffened and fell straight to the ground. At this time, the 6 of them who were already 300 meters away subconsciously looked back. They were just in time to see the old monk fall to the ground and die. They were all scared out of their wits. They immediately sped up and disappeared from sight in the blink of an eye. At this time, Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan's eyes were filled with fear. The scene that happened in front of them made the 2 of them understand the difference between them and Li Changsheng. Although the 2 of them had lost to Li Changsheng, they thought that Li Changsheng was only slightly stronger than Wei Gingqiu. However, they now understood that when Li Changsheng attacked the 2 of them, he was just fooling around. Otherwise, the 2 of them wouldn't be alive right now. Regardless of whether it was the middle-aged Taoist or the old monk, their strength was only slightly weaker than the 2 of them. Who is this Li Changsheng? His strength is probably on par with the alliance leader of the Heavenly Way Alliance, who is in seclusion. The 2 of them looked at each other and saw the storm in each other's eyes. Chapter 531. No wonder Wei Gingqiu was willing to hand over the northern base to him. With such strength, he alone is like a great wall of steel. Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan had the same thought. The few superpowers in the northern cultivation world had been eyeing the Heaven's Way Union's spirit or mind. Now that the 8 Vajra realm martial artists had joined forces, they had suffered great losses and fled. From today onwards, the Heaven's Way Union would truly rule the North. No one would dare to lay their hands on the spirit or mind again. Miao Huntao sighed. Facing a super expert like Li Changsheng, he only felt a deep sense of powerlessness in his heart. "Mister, my junior sister and I will take our leave now." Miao Huntao cupped his hands and bowed to Li Changsheng. He felt a little lucky. If he had not been lucky today and had joined forces with the other 8 people to take advantage of the situation, he might have ended up like the monk and the Taoist priest. Now, this ordinary-looking young man was no different from a ferocious beast in Miao Huntao's eyes. "Junior sister, let's go." Wei Xilan stared blankly at Li Changsheng. Miao Huntao had never seen such an expression on her face before. Miao Huntao's heart skipped a beat. He thought to himself, could my junior sister have taken a liking to this Mr. Li? Just as he had this thought, Wei Xilan suddenly said, "Mr. Li, may I have the honor of inviting you to my residence as a guest?" As she finished speaking, Miao Huntao's face showed that he had expected this. Since ancient times, beautiful women loved heroes. Moreover, people like Li Changsheng were even more beautiful. Li Changsheng was a little hesitant, although it could be said that he had shown mercy to the two of them back then. But that didn't mean that Li Changsheng had any good feelings towards them. A few minutes ago, the two sides were still enemies. In the blink of an eye, they had turned hostility into friendship. This was not Li Changsheng's style. "Mr. Li, when my master was traveling around the world, he got a strange thing. He guessed that it was probably an object left behind from ancient times. He studied it for half his life, but he couldn't figure it out. A few years ago, he passed it to me, thinking that I was more careful and intelligent. Unfortunately, after so many years, I still couldn't figure out what it was. Mr. Li's strength is outstanding, and your master must be extraordinary. I want Mr. Li to help me study it." As soon as Wei Xilan finished speaking, Miao Huntao seemed to have thought of something as well. Only then did he dispel his previous conjecture, but he was even more puzzled in his heart. That item was obtained by his martial uncle from an ancient ruin. Although he still didn't know what it was used for, he still treated it like a treasure. Li Changsheng was just an outsider. What was his junior sister planning? When he looked at the jar again, the clear water had disappeared without a trace. It had entered his energy center. He closed his eyes and looked inside himself. He found that the clear water in his energy center had formed a lake, like the surface of a mirror. Li Changsheng did not feel any special power in the lake. However, at this moment, it was as if it had always existed in his energy center. It had completely merged with his energy center. He tried to move the lake a few times, but to no avail. He had no choice but to withdraw his consciousness. When he looked up, he saw Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan staring at him. Li Changsheng could not help but smile apologetically. This was something that they found in the ancient ruins. Now that he had somehow absorbed it, he did not know how to explain it. "This jar was found by my master in the ancient ruins. When he found it, there was clear water inside. My master and I studied it many times. There is nothing special about this jar. It might have been an instrument in the past. However, too much time has passed, and the divinity has dissipated. There is only a jar of clear water left. We did not find anything special about it, so it has always been there. We tried many methods, but we could not move the clear water. I did not expect Mr. Li to be able to make the clear water react as soon as you touched it. But where did Mr. Li put the clear water?" Hearing Wei Xilan's words, Li Changsheng could not help but feel awkward. If I said that the clear water ran into my energy center and I could not get it out, would you believe me? Chapter 532. Miao Hentao and Wei Xilan were speechless as they looked at Li Changsheng. They thought to themselves, is the guest elder of the Heaven's Way Alliance trying to take the water from the jar for himself? Although the water was useless in their hands, it was still dug out from the ancient ruins. Li Changsheng also felt that he could not explain himself. Forget it. If Mr. Li likes it, you can take it. This thing has to be fated. Both of us have not been able to figure out how to use it for such a long time. Mr. Li, the water reacted the first time we met. Wei Xilan said. With Li Changsheng's abilities, even if he wanted to take something from her, she would not be able to resist. Moreover, Li Changsheng had left her jar. I really did not absorb it on purpose. It ran into my energy center. I'm really sorry that I can't get it out now. I owe you a favor. If you need anything in the future, just let me know. Li Changsheng had no other choice. He couldn't just cut open his own body and pour out the water from his dantian for her. Seeing Li Changsheng's sincere look, Wei Xylan nodded. She felt that Li Changsheng was not lying to her. Mr. Li, do you want to take this jar as well? Wei Xylan was also a person of character. She had already made up her mind. Since the water in the jar was already in Li Changsheng's hands, he might as well take his relationship with Li Changsheng a step further. Since he was giving Buddha to the West, he would help him to the end, even giving the jar to Li Changsheng. After all, with Li Changsheng's abilities, if she could gain the friendship of such a powerful person, she would not be able to buy it. No. Li Changsheng hurriedly waved his hand. He already felt guilty that he had accidentally poured the water into his body. How could he accept someone else's jar? All right, Mr. Li. With your abilities, I'm afraid that even the Northern Elder of the Heaven's Way Alliance, Wei Gingqiu, is no match for you. Why did you join the Heaven's Way Alliance and become a guest elder? Although a guest elder had a high status, he did not have much power. Miao Huntao asked the question in his mind. The Heavenly Tao Union promised to protect my family, so I became their guest elder. You should know that no matter how powerful an expert is, it is impossible for them to take care of everything. I see. Miao Huntao and Wei Xylan nodded simultaneously. Cultivators were either like Miao Huntao and his sister, who didn't have any relatives or friends in the secular world, or they cultivated to the point where they were heartless and only cared about their own interests and had long since become indifferent to worldly feelings. People like Li Changsheng, who cared about worldly relatives, were absolutely affectionate and righteous. For a moment, the two of them looked at Li Changsheng with admiration. Both of them were orphans and had grown up learning from their master. Thus, they valued relationships more than the average person. The concentration of spiritual energy in Shuo City is much higher than in other cities. If we can use the spirit gathering formation to guide it, the effect of cultivation can be doubled. Li Changsheng looked at the entire villa and said, "Why don't you let me set up a spirit gathering formation here? That will increase the efficiency of your cultivation." As the saying goes, one who takes advantage of another's kindness has a soft spot. Although the water in the clay jar had flowed into Li Changsheng's energy center, Li Changsheng still felt a little guilty. Although he had already promised that they could look for him if they encountered any difficulties in the future, if he could compensate them in other ways, it would make him feel more at ease. Mr. Li knows how to set up a spirit gathering formation. Miao Huntao and Wei Xylan's eyes lit up. Li Changsheng was about to nod when footsteps came from outside. A young man walked in and bowed to Miao Huntao and Wei Xylan. "Greetings, faction leader Miao, boss Wei. What's the matter?" Wei Xylan frowned slightly. Just when Li Changsheng said that he would help her set up a spirit gathering formation, she was overjoyed, but was interrupted by her subordinate. However, her subordinate was not ignorant. He must have something to ask. As expected, the young man said, "Boss Sun from Qingzhou wants to see you." "Boss Sun?" Wei Xylan was deep in thought. Suddenly, she realized, is it the Sun Hongji who was being hunted down by his enemies and paid a huge sum of money to hire me? That's him. The young man nodded. "Let him in." After the young man turned and left, he introduced Boss Sun to Li Changsheng and Miao Huntao. The path of cultivation requires money, companions, spells, and land. Many of us cultivators have our own forces in the secular world. However, the Heavenly Way Alliance has monopolized all the industries in the north. I want to earn some money, but I still have to be suppressed by them. Hence, I opened a bodyguard company to take on some business. A few days ago, a boss from Qingzhou whose surname is Sun was being hunted down. He hired a few bodyguards for me. The people who hunted him were very powerful, and the bodyguards I sent could not stop them. In the end, I had to use my connections to put pressure on his enemies. Only then did he stop hiding. A few days ago, he came to visit me many times and wanted to meet me. I did not want to meet such a small figure, but this guy was sincere. He sent me a lot of money to thank me, so I agreed to meet him. As Wei Xylan was explaining, footsteps came from outside. A slightly plump middle-aged man in a suit walked in. When Li Changsheng saw the middle-aged man, he felt that he looked familiar. He quickly remembered who he was. The last time he was on the train from the capital back to Qingzhou, This guy was sitting opposite him. At that time, he said that he would spend a lot of money to hire Fu Tu to be his bodyguard. He seemed to be the boss of a graphite company. He did not expect to meet him here again. Sun Hongji was being hunted down by his enemies. He hired a lot of bodyguards, but they were of no use. Later, a friend introduced him to Wei Xilan's bodyguard company. Because a few of his bodyguard were injured, Wei Xilan, who was hiding behind the scenes, was finally alerted. That day, Wei Xilan sent a message to him, saying that she would help him settle the matter. At first, Sun Hongji did not believe it. After all, his enemy was very powerful. In the past, he had thought of all kinds of ways to reconcile with them. However, no matter how much money he spent or how many senior figures he found in the Jianghu, they all ignored him. Who knew that after only one day, his enemy would take the initiative to send a message, saying that they were willing to bury the hatchet. At this time, he understood that the person behind the bodyguard company was very powerful. After all, when his enemy was talking to him on the phone, there was a hint of humility in his voice. He was a businessman and was good at monopolizing. He knew that he had met a real big shot this time, so he wanted to meet Wei Xilan at all costs. To Wei Xilan, meeting him might be a trivial matter, but to him, it was very important. It would be a very precious asset for him in the future. Everyone in the circle knew about the feud between him and his enemy. Now that his enemy had given in, many people were speculating. At this time, if there were rumors that he was related to the big shot who made his enemy bow down, anyone who wanted to touch him would have to consider Wei Xilan's power. This was a protective talisman. Chapter 533. Compared to the last time he met Li Changsheng on the train, Sun Hongji was much more confident now. Last time, although he had a few bodyguards with him and had an extraordinary aura, he was being chased by his enemies at that time. He was as panicked as a stray dog and lived cautiously. Now that his enemies had taken the initiative to bow to him and were no longer in danger, he could be said to be flushed with success. However, when he stepped through the door, his originally confident face was suddenly filled with a flattering smile. His fat face squeezed out wrinkles like chrysanthemums. Sun Hongji knelt down in front of Wei Xilan as soon as he stepped through the door. "President Wei, thank you for your help. I am here to pay my respects." Wei Xilan did not show much emotion when she saw Sun Hongji bow to her. When she was explaining to Li Changsheng, she said that she only had a small force in the secular world. However, her so-called small force was already a huge force for someone like Sun Hongji. Wei Xilan's status in the north was as high as a queen. "Get up. I only helped you because the bodyguards I sent were not very capable," Wei Xilan said calmly. When she was in front of Li Changsheng, she smiled sweetly and even acted like a little girl. However, when she was in front of others, she was a true leader. "Yes." Sun Hongji quickly got up from the ground and stood in the middle of the hall. He lowered his head and did not dare to sit down. He also did not dare to look at Miao Huntao and Li Changsheng, who were sitting next to Wei Xilan. In his mind, those who could sit next to Wei Xilan and enjoy tea and talk about cultivation were definitely big shots who could shake the north with a sneeze. Sun Hongzi had a vague impression of the two people sitting beside Wei Xilan when he saw them from the corner of his eye. Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan were both famous big shots in the north. Their auras were even more powerful than Wei Xilan's. As for Li Changsheng, although he was slightly ordinary, sitting here, he naturally brought a bit of light that people didn't dare to look directly at. Sun Hongji only felt that he was a little familiar, but who would have thought that he would meet such a big shot on the train? "Sun Hongji, I've received the gifts you sent last time. I haven't had the time to express my gratitude to you. You came all the way here to see me. Other than expressing your gratitude, is there anything else?" Given Sun Hongji's status, most people would address him as General Manager's son, but Wei Xilan called him by his name. However, Sun Hongji did not dare to show any displeasure on his face. Instead, he lowered his head and said, "President Wei, other than thanking you for saving my life, there is one more thing. I am preparing to open a company in Qingzhou. I would like to invite President Wei to invest. President Wei, you don't have to fork out any money. As long as you agree, I will hand over 30% of the shares to you. The other party spoke without hesitation. Even Miao Huntao was slightly surprised. Giving away 30% of the shares of a company just to have a relationship with Wei Xilan, this person was quite daring. However, 30% of the shares was not much of a temptation to a cultivator like Wei Xilan. As expected, Wei Xilan shook her head and said, "No need. You have given me enough gifts as thanks. I am not interested in the shares." This, Sun Hongji could not help but wipe the sweat off his forehead. Although Wei Xilan spoke calmly from beginning to end, in front of such a person, even a general manager like him felt a lot of pressure. Moreover, he would not give Wei Xilan the shares for free. As long as Wei Xilan agreed to take the shares, it would mean that he had successfully tied himself to Wei Xilan's ship. Now that Wei Xilan rejected him, he knew that Wei Xilan had seen through his intentions. "President Wei, since you're not interested in the shares, then I won't force you. This time, I came to Shuo province with some gifts for you. I heard that you like antiques, so I found some bronzes. Let me show you." As he spoke, he glanced at Miao Huntao and Li Changsheng. "These two are President Miao's friends, right? I have also prepared some gifts." Sun Hongji was determined to establish a relationship with Wei Xilan. This time, he brought many valuable items to the north. Since the two sitting beside him could chat with Wei Xilan, he naturally had to curry favor with them. Even if it was just to get acquainted with them, it would be good. As he spoke, he waved his hand. Immediately, someone came in with a few items. A wooden box was opened. There was a bronze sword in it. It should have been made before the Qin dynasty. After more than 2,000 years, it still shone with a cold light. There were also some porcelain vases, calligraphy, and paintings. In the eyes of the common people, these were worth a lot of money. However, to cultivators, as long as they were not magic items, they were not very useful. "This gentleman is handsome. He will definitely like this." Sun Hongji took out a piece of white jade from a box. The word Jun was carved on the white jade. It looked very round and smooth. He extended his hand and handed it to Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng did not take the white jade. Instead, he smiled and said, "Boss Sun, we meet again." Sun Hongji was stunned by Li Changsheng's words. Then, he suddenly remembered something. "You're the young man with the big bodyguard on the train?" As he was too shocked, the jade in his hand fell to the ground because he did not hold it properly. The shock in his heart was no different from seeing a large dinosaur from the Jurassic period running around on the streets of the 21st century. The last time on the train, he only treated Li Changsheng as an ordinary person. Now, they were meeting again in the mansion of a big shot like Wei Xilan. After looking at Li Changsheng for more than 10 seconds, he finally confirmed that this was the young man he saw on the train. Seeing Sun Hongji's expression, Wei Xilan and Miao Huntao were confused. Could it be that this Mr. Li knew Sun Hongji? One had to know that with Li Changsheng's status, he was high and mighty, like a divine dragon in the sky. This Sun Hongji was at best a local snake. The possibility of a sparrow and a phoenix meeting was too small. "Boss Sun, how did you and Mr. Li meet? Quick, sit down and tell us." Wei Xilan suddenly said with a smile. The change in attitude made Sun Hongji confused. He had been in for so long, but Wei Xilan did not have the intention to invite him to sit down. Just now, Li Changsheng said a few words to him, and his attitude changed completely. "Mr. Li is a big shot. Even I have to rely on him. Boss Sun, it seems like you've hidden your identity well." Wei Xilan's words made Sun Hongji fearful. How could he know Li Changsheng? He almost had a conflict with Li Changsheng on the train. He could not help but look at Li Changsheng carefully, afraid that Li Changsheng would say something bad. However, he did not know that someone like Li Changsheng would not care about a nobody like him. He smiled and said, "Yes, I've met Boss Sun once." After saying this, Sun Hongji finally felt relieved. At the same time, his mind was spinning. After calming down, he realized that although Li Changsheng was young and looked ordinary, sitting beside Wei Xilan and Miao Huntao, his aura was stronger than both of them. It was as if he was the leader of the three of them. This Mr. Li is so young. To be able to make people like Wei Xylan and Miao Huntao serve him tea, and to have such an aura, he must be the son of a big family. Looks like I have to find a way to get on his good side. Sun Hongji thought to himself. Just as Li Changsheng, Miao Huntao, and Wei Xylan were drinking tea and discussing Dao, they did not know that the appearance of this guest elder had caused an uproar in the Northern Cultivation World and the Heaven's Path Alliance. Chapter 534. Li Changsheng had somehow absorbed the clear water in the jar. To compensate Wei Xylan, he offered to set up a spirit-gathering formation for her. Although Wei Xylan was unhappy about losing the clear water, she could tell that Li Changsheng was not lying. Moreover, if she could get the help of the spirit-gathering formation to gather spirit chi and increase her cultivation speed, it would be beneficial to her as well. Wei Xylan was a famous row cultivator in the north and had accumulated some wealth over the years. Li Changsheng stood on the roof of the villa. There were many fist-sized spirit stones in the courtyard. He waved his hands, and the spirit stones floated up from the ground. Following his gestures, they flew in all directions. Miao Huntao and Wei Xylan were dumbfounded by what they saw. Li Changsheng's control over his true qi had already reached the point of transforming it into a spring breeze and rain. From beginning to end, they didn't feel the slightest fluctuation of spirit qi. Mr. Li's level of attainment is beyond our reach, Miao Huntao exclaimed. At this moment, Li Changsheng had placed all the spirit stones into the formation eye. At the same time, he placed a few formation flags into the surroundings according to the 5 elements and 8 trigrams. When the last formation flag was placed into the ground, there was a breeze in the villa. Wei Xylan and Miao Huntao were mesmerized. They could clearly feel the spirit qi gathering. At this moment, Miao Huntao's phone rang. When he finished the call, his face darkened. Li Changsheng gently floated down from the roof, like a sparrow landing on the ground to feed. Wei Xylan quickly went up to him. Mr. Li, you've worked hard. It's nothing. Li Changsheng smiled. Wei Xylan then noticed Miao Huntao's frown. Senior Miao, what's wrong? Did something happen? Miao Huntao was an expert cultivator and a business tycoon. He had been through a lot and did not show his emotions on his face. Wei Xylan was puzzled. I just received news that yesterday, a mysterious expert from overseas entered the north and clashed with a Vajra realm martial expert in the north. That Vajra realm martial expert was a friend of mine, and he was killed. Wei Xylan's expression changed as soon as Miao Huntao finished speaking. A Vajra realm martial artist is already considered an expert in the entire cultivation world. To kill a Vajra realm martial artist, there must be an absolute suppression in terms of strength. Could it be that a profound realm martial artist has made a move? Wei Xylan frowned. In the past, Wei Gengxiu, who had just entered the Finger Profound realm, was able to suppress the independent cultivators like them. They did not dare to act rashly. Now that a mysterious expert had killed someone on the spot, this was definitely not good news for them. Senior brother Miao, what do you plan to do? Wei Xylan looked at Miao Huntao. My friend was killed. Of course, I have to investigate. Since he is able to kill a Vajra realm martial expert, I'm afraid that we won't be able to deal with him. At this moment, the two of them looked at Li Changsheng at almost the same time. The Heavens Law Union was not an ordinary cultivation organization. It had many connections with the government and was known as the brocade guard of the cultivation world. Now that a foreign force had entered the north, the Heavens Law Union naturally could not sit back and do nothing. Now, that Li Changsheng was the person with the highest status in the north of the Heavens Law Union and was guarding the north on behalf of Wei Gengxiu. Not only the two of them, but also the entire cultivation world in the north would have to wait for Li Changsheng to make a decision. Since it is my responsibility, I will naturally handle it. However, I'm not sure of the exact situation yet. I will go back and discuss with a few core people in the north before making a decision. Li Changsheng said. Although he was in charge of guarding the north, he did not know much about the internal affairs of the Heavens Law Union. He would have to listen to Yin Tianming, Fu Guahao, and the other's opinions on whether or not he should interfere. After the spirit-gathering array was set up, Li Changsheng took his leave first. When he returned to Shan's courtyard, he saw that Yin Tianming, Fu Guahao, and the others had been waiting for him for a long time. Apparently, they had also heard about the invasion of the mysterious masters. Mr. Li, according to the information we have received, a few foreign masters have entered the north. One of them is an immortal state warrior. His target seems to be you. Yin Tianming had been handling affairs in the Qin city for the past few days. He was the chief steward of the Qin city and was at the same level as Duan Yu. As soon as he saw Li Changsheng, he hurriedly reported to him, "They are here for me?" Hearing Yin Tianming's words, Li Changsheng frowned. "What is going on? Tell me about it. We don't know much about this immortal state warrior. It is said that he is from a mysterious foreign force. The information about this person is from more than 10 years ago. This person came from a mysterious foreign force. He is very talented and has been practicing the secret art of mind with his master since he was a child. He used to be a mercenary and an assassin. Many foreign forces worship him as a god. Countless overlords have died in his hands. However, just when his reputation was at its peak, we suddenly lost track of him. Based on the information we have, 10 years ago, he was already a semi-divinity realm expert, which is equivalent to the Vajra realm in our world of cultivation. This time, it is said that he killed the Vajra state warrior in the north with one move. According to our prediction, he is likely to have reached the immortal state, not the early stage of the immortal state, but the late stage or even the peak stage. After hearing Yin Tianming's words, everyone's face was a bit gloomy. Wei Gingxiu was the most powerful warrior in the north, but he was only at the early stage of the profound finger realm, which was equivalent to the early stage of the immortal state. If this man was at the late stage of the immortal state, his strength would be very terrifying. The difference of one level in martial arts was like the difference between heaven and earth. Then why did you say that he is here for me? Li Changsheng, on the other hand, didn't feel much. There was indeed a big gap between the early stage and the late stage of the finger profound realm, but in his eyes, there was not much difference. The reason why we think that he is here for Mr. Li is because they have already sneaked into our country, but never showed up. It was not until Mr. Li succeeded as the guest elder in the north and killed 2 independent warriors in the cultivation world that they suddenly showed up after his reputation spread. This is obviously not a coincidence. Moreover, this immortal state warrior from abroad has another identity. He is the senior brother of the Mind Master Tony. When they were young, they learned the secret art of mind under the same master. The two of them were very close. Tony died in Mr. Li's hands. The appearance of a senior brother is very likely to be to seek revenge on Mr. Li, Yin Tianming explained. I see. Li Changxing nodded. He had promised Wei Gingxiu that he would be in charge of the north. When the foreign forces came to make trouble, he was responsible for maintaining the stability of the north. In addition, the other party came for him, so he had even more reason to act. Chapter 536. This Situ Qinglong is too cruel. He is simply an executioner. Nearly 40 experts from our Qin City and Shuo City strongholds died in his hands. These people have no grudges with him. He is really ruthless. Ouyang Ruo gritted her teeth and said, Yin Tianming, Duan Yu, and Fu Guahao were also gloomy. Today, it was fortunate that the two of them had received Li Changxing's secret order to investigate Situ Qinglong's information and did not stay at the stronghold. Otherwise, even the two of them would not have been spared. Mr. Li, Miao Hun Tao, and Wei Xilan are here. Fu Guahao walked over and said in a low voice. He saw Miao Hun Tao and Wei Xilan walking toward him. Their faces were dark. Another one of our friends was killed. Situ Qinglong has challenged the entire northern cultivation community. He wants to establish a branch of the Hong sect in the north. Miao Hun Tao said as soon as he walked in. The Hong sect? Li Changxing frowned and looked at Ouyang Ruo. Ouyang Ruo quickly said, I didn't have time to report to you. Situ Qinglong's other identity is the Dragon Lord of the Hong sect, which is the same as Old Man Wei and the Heavenly Tao Alliance. He wants to establish a branch in the north on behalf of the Hong sect. Li Chongqing sneered. The roots of the Hong sect were in Huaxia, but because of the national conditions, they were driven out of this land many years ago. How could it be that easy for Situ Qinglong to make a comeback at this time? I heard that Situ Qinglong invited a few Jianghu bigwigs who were related to the Hong sect to dinner at the Grand Passion Hotel in Shuo City. He is preparing to set up a branch in the north. Mr. Li, would you like to meet him? That was the purpose of Miao Huntao's visit. After all, Situ Qinglong had proven that he had reached the immortal state. Although Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan were powerful and famous among the rogue cultivators, they were no match for Situ Qinglong. In the hearts of the two, only someone like Li Chongqing could compare to him. Of course, Li Chongqing nodded. He had only been quiet for a night, and this Situ Qinglong had already killed so many people. If he allowed this to continue, then the north would really be in chaos. Located in the center of Shuo City, a tall building with more than 30 floors stood quietly. As usual, there were many luxury cars parked in the parking lot. The only difference was that the entire Grand Passion Hotel was booked by someone today. They didn't receive any guests, which caused quite a stir. Grand Passion Hotel's daily turnover was over 1 million yuan. Many people were guessing who had such a big hand to reserve the whole building and not receive any guests. Li Chongqing, Miao Huntao, and Wei Xilan were sitting in a few extended Rolls-Royces. After the cars stopped at the entrance, a security guard in a suit came up to them and asked for their invitation cards. Miao Huntao, who was already angry, waved his sleeve and sent the security guard 5 or 6 meters away. He snorted and said, "I, Miao Huntao, am here to give face to that fake foreigner. How dare you ask for an invitation card from me? You must be tired of living." Many security guards surrounded them, but they had never seen someone as powerful as Miao Huntao, so they kept a distance from him. Just as the two sides were in a stalemate, a Jianghu tycoon recognized Miao Huntao. "Isn't this Mr. Miao?" As he spoke, he glared at the security guards. "How dare you stop the famous Mr. Miao? Are you tired of living?" Miao Huntao was a famous figure in the north. Sure enough, as soon as the gangster boss spoke, the surrounding security guards had no choice but to make way for Li Chongqing and the others. They were just temporarily sent by the hotel to maintain order. The people who came here today were all influential figures, so they didn't dare to offend them. There was a sea of people in the hall. This time, Situ Qinglong wanted to build a branch of the Hong sect in the north, so he had invited almost all the forces that could be invited. Li Chongqing and the others attracted a lot of attention as soon as they appeared. Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan were the representatives of the independent cultivators, while Duan Yu represented the Tiandao Alliance. If the Hong sect wanted to build a branch in the north, they couldn't avoid the independent cultivators and the Tiandao Alliance. As for the other Jianghu sects, no matter how powerful they were just weeds on the side of the road in the eyes of the cultivators. They couldn't stop them at all. However, when Miao Huntao and the others appeared, only a few people came up to greet them. The others deliberately kept a distance from them. Everyone knew that the Dragon Master of the Hong sect had destroyed 2 of the Tiandao Alliance's strongholds as soon as he appeared, and he had directly challenged the Tiandao Alliance. He didn't care about the Tiandao Alliance at all. He had also killed a few independent cultivators, 2 of whom were close to Miao Huntao. Before the situation was clear, people didn't want to pick a side too early. Bullsh *T, Dragon Master of the Hong sect. How dare he come to the north and cause trouble? He's even more despicable than the Tiandao Alliance. A rough voice was heard, and a burly man appeared. He had a ferocious face, and the ground seemed to shake when he walked. He was a Vajra realm martial artist. After he appeared, he walked directly to Miao Huntao. Miao Huntao was the leader of the independent cultivators in the northwest. Even the burly man showed some respect when he saw Miao Huntao. However, when he glanced at Li Chongqing, who was sitting next to Miao Huntao, he looked a little confused. He probably thought that Li Changsheng was just a pawn who happened to be sitting next to Miao Huntao. He immediately glared at him and said fiercely, "Kid, move aside. I have something to say to Miao Huntao. You can sit aside." When Miao Huntao heard the burly man's words, he saw that Li Changsheng had already stood up and moved to a seat about 3 or 4 meters away. Miao Huntao was a little confused, but he didn't say anything. The burly man sat down directly. This Sidu Qinglong is too arrogant. He came to the north and killed several people. He doesn't care about the cultivation world in the north. Originally, when the Hong sect wanted to open a branch to compete with the Heavenly Tao Alliance, we didn't have any objections. However, as soon as he came out, he treated all of us as enemies. We can't take this lying down. Let's see what's so great about him later. The burly man's voice buzzed. Don't underestimate him. He doesn't even care about the Heavenly Tao Alliance, which means that he came prepared. Moreover, he killed several experts. You may not be a match for him. Miao Huntao knew Badawa well. He was born with divine strength and had a talent for cultivation. Even if Miao Huntao attacked, he couldn't easily suppress him. However, he was only in the Vajra realm. If he wanted to fight with a God State expert, he was obviously not qualified. I heard that Sidu Qinglong has 5 experts who can kill a Vajra realm expert. He must have joined forces with his subordinates. I don't even care about that old man Wei Gingxiu. I don't think Sidu Qinglong is a big deal. Hearing Badawa's words, Miao Huntao couldn't help but shake his head. He saw that many famous figures in the itinerant cultivator world had appeared at the scene. They probably had the same idea as Badawa. You guys, do you think Sidu Qinglong is easy to deal with? Miao Huntao couldn't help but sigh in his heart. These people didn't have any self-awareness at all. The only person who could compete with Sidu Qinglong was probably Mr. Li. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at Li Changsheng's seat subconsciously. However, he found that Li Changsheng had long disappeared. After searching carefully, he found Li Changsheng's shadow in the corner. However, Li Changsheng seemed to be chatting with a woman. Chapter 537. What a coincidence. I didn't expect to meet you here. The woman was dressed fashionably, and her slim figure was clearly visible. She was looking at Li Changsheng with a smile on her face. Li Changsheng was also surprised to meet Sun Yinzi here. Today was Situ Qinglong's banquet with many big shots of the northern underworld. Logically speaking, Sun Yinzi was just an ordinary college student. Although she was pretty, she was not qualified to attend such a banquet. Seeing Li Changsheng's confusion, Sun Yinzi smiled and said, "Me? I came with Wang Wenan. His uncle works for a big boss, and that big boss thinks highly of his uncle. So he brought his uncle to attend such a banquet. Originally, Wang Wenan and I came to Shuo City for sightseeing, but his uncle said that he would bring him to see the world. So I benefited from it and was able to enter such a high-class place." Li Changsheng, you also came with your family's elders, right? Yes. Li Changsheng nodded. When he was sitting there just now, he found Sun Yinzi's figure familiar. After recognizing her, he took the initiative to greet her. From Sun Yinzi's words, he knew that Wang Wenan's uncle was probably from the northern underworld. What about Wang Wenan? Why isn't he with you? Sun Yinzi pointed to the crowd. Wang Wenan was being led by a middle-aged man to clink glasses and greet others. Wenan's uncle said that everyone here is a big shot. If he can build a good relationship with them, it will be beneficial for him in the future. Then why aren't you with him? Li Changsheng was a little puzzled. With Sun Yinzi's beauty, it would be helpful for Wang Wenan to socialize if she stood beside him. Me? It's my first time at such a banquet. I'm not good with words, and I'm a little timid. So, I'm not with him. Speaking of this, Sun Yinzi's eyes flashed with a sense of inferiority. Indeed, she came from an ordinary family. Although she was pretty, she lacked innate confidence and temperament. Inferiority was something that was engraved in the bones of poor people, regardless of gender. Actually, those big bosses in your eyes are nothing. Rich people are not necessarily gentlemen. In fact, they're often more vulgar than us. Aren't you looking down on yourself by saying that? Sun Yinzi looked at Li Changsheng and smiled. In her eyes, Li Changsheng was a rich second generation who hid his talents well. Ha! I'm not rich. Just like you. I'm from a humble family. As the two of them chatted, they saw Wang Wanan and a middle-aged man walking back. When he saw Li Changsheng sitting beside Sun Yinzi, Wang Wanan's expression became slightly unnatural. However, he quickly smiled and extended his hand. Mr. Li, we meet again. The middle-aged man who was holding the wine cup revealed a puzzled expression. Wang Wanan hurriedly introduced, "This is Li Changsheng, a friend of mine." "Hello, I'm Wang Wanan's uncle, Wang Biao. I'm the Biao from the tiger with wings." Wang Biao took the initiative to extend his hand and shook Li Changsheng's hand. Being able to appear here in such an occasion represented a kind of status in itself. Wang Wanan and Wang Biao sat down. Li Changsheng originally planned to find an excuse to leave and return to the Heavenly Tao Union seat. Suddenly, there was a commotion from the crowd as a group of people rushed in. They were 6 people with extraordinary auras and different attire. Li Changsheng recognized them. They were actually 6 of the 8 Vajra realm martial experts that escaped when he tried to snatch the spirit ore that day and killed 2 of them. These 6 people were all famous figures in the northern cultivation world. Although they were defeated by Li Changsheng, it didn't affect their status in the north. This time, Situ Qinglong appeared in the northwest without warning and started a war with the northwest itinerant cultivator world and the Heavenly Tao Union at the same time. Today's banquet had undoubtedly become a confrontation between Situ Qinglong and the northwest cultivation world. After the 6 of them appeared and took their seats, many people with extraordinary status quickly gathered around them. The cultivation world and the secular martial arts world had many connections. For example, the itinerant cultivators in the itinerant cultivator world all operated their forces in the secular world. They took in many disciples to help them accumulate wealth. Apart from their status as itinerant cultivators, they were also well-known bosses in the underworld. Who are these people? All of them are so arrogant. Look at their strange attire. Those who don't know would think that they are filming a TV show. Wang Wanan muttered. However, his uncle, Wang Biao, glared at him. Don't talk nonsense. These 6 are not ordinary people. Any one of them can make the entire Northwest tremble with a stomp of their feet. The one in the suit is Tsang Yingwu, the chairman of the Northwest City Group. He alone has 16 companies under his name, each of which is worth more than 10 billion yuan. And that Shun Feiwen is even more amazing. In the northern underworld, his seniority is extremely high. Even my boss, according to seniority, has to call him Grandmaster. His name may not be famous, but only people who have reached that level will know how terrifying he is. The remaining few are not lower than him in status. If you offend any one of them, not even the gods can save you, let alone me. Hearing Wang Biao's words, Wang Wanan stuck out his tongue. They are so powerful. Uncle, you know so much. Speaking of this, Wang Wanan's heart was filled with pride. Although his uncle couldn't be compared with these big shots, he was able to recognize them at a glance. In his opinion, this was very unusual. Subconsciously, he glanced at Li Changsheng next to him. He wanted to see Li Changsheng's reaction. Unfortunately, Li Changsheng only had a smile on his face. He didn't seem to be shocked at all. This guy is quite good at pretending. Although his family is not ordinary, I don't believe that he can compare with these big shots. Now he's pretending to be mysterious in front of me. When those big shots show up later, I am afraid that he will be exposed. Wang Wanan thought in his heart. At this time, his uncle continued, but no matter how powerful they are, they can't be compared with today's main character, Situ Qinglong. He is the founding member of the world's largest organization, the Hong Sect. Today, he is holding this banquet here to meet those big shots in the Jianghu. Once the Hong Sect is established, he will be the leader of the Jianghu. So powerful? Even Sun Yinzi's eyes were filled with excitement. It was as if the door to another world was opened for her. For an ordinary college student, this kind of impact was greater than the city's red light. Sima Qinglong is here. At this time, someone in the crowd shouted. The originally noisy hall instantly fell into silence. An old man in a Tang suit appeared. He held a walking stick in his hand and walked very slowly. He looked like an old man with one foot in the grave. Behind him, 5 muscular men of different skin colors followed quietly. The aura of these 5 men was very strong. Wherever they passed, the guests present felt very suffocated. It was as if there was a towering mountain pressing down on their hearts. He is Sima Qinglong? Look at how hard it is for him to walk. I am afraid he doesn't have many years left. Sun Yinzi muttered in a low voice. Don't talk nonsense, Yinzi. Wang Wenon hurriedly whispered. Chapter 538. Don't spout nonsense. Sidu Qinglong is rumored to be a powerful martial artist. His hearing is much sharper than the average person. Wang Biao chimed in with a dark face. The only reason he was able to attend the banquet was because of his boss. It could be said that any random person in this hall was many levels higher than him. This old man is a powerful martial artist. Yinzi Sun stuck out her tongue. Yinzi Sun's voice stopped abruptly. She saw Sidu Qinglong looking at her with a smile. He seemed to have heard me. He is smiling at me. Is there really such a powerful martial artist in this world? Yinzi Sun's face froze. Li Changshen couldn't help but shake his head. Situ Qinglong was a deity realm expert. As long as he was willing, even the sound of a mosquito flapping its wings within 100 meters could not escape his ears, let alone Sun Yinzi's muttering. By then, Sidu Qinglong had already entered the banquet hall. Many people came forward to greet him. The Dragon Lord of the Hong sect was a powerful martial artist. No one wanted to offend him, even if they didn't support him, as the new leader of the Northern Jianghu. Hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend my banquet. Situ Qinglong walked to the center of the banquet hall and said with a smile, Mr. Situ, you are too kind. You are the Dragon Lord of the Hong sect. It is our honor to be invited by you. A middle-aged man said loudly. Although he sounded like he was trying to flatter Situ Qinglong, many people agreed with him. That's right. Given Mr. Situ's status, inviting us is already giving us face. Mr. Situ wants to establish a branch of the Hong sect in the Northern Jianghu. We are all in favor of it. I think Mr. Situ should be the leader of the Northern Jianghu. The Northern Jianghu has been in a state of disunity for years. We need a leader to lead us. Many people in the banquet hall were big shots. They were usually high and mighty, but when they started to flatter Situ Qinglong, they didn't even blush. Situ Qinglong seemed to be very satisfied with the atmosphere in front of him. The smile on his face was very bright. Bullshit. This old man can't even walk properly. It seems that he won't live for long. How can he be the leader of our northern martial arts world? A rough voice suddenly rang out, and in an instant, it covered all the boot-licking voices. Compared to Sun Yinzi's lack of understanding, this voice was clearly mocking Situ Qinglong. Who? Everyone's eyes searched the area. Standing out to say such words at this time, it was clear that he did not put Situ Qinglong in his eyes and came to cause trouble. You don't have to look for me. I'm here. At this moment, a figure stood up. His sturdy body and tall stature made him stand out like a crane among chickens. Soon, everyone recognized him. He was Bardo, who was sitting next to Miao Hentao. Seeing Bateau step forward, many people felt relieved. Bardo had a bad temper to begin with, not to mention that he had shown hostility towards Situ Qinglong when he had just entered the hall. It was normal for him to stand up at this time. May I know who you are? Situ Qinglong said in a gentlemanly manner. I'm your grandpa Bardo, Situ Qinglong. You're just a fake foreigner. If you want to stir up trouble in the northern martial arts world, you'll have to ask my fist first. As soon as Bardo finished speaking, he walked to the center of the hall and said coldly, Everyone says that you, Situ Qinglong, are powerful. Then I'd like to see you. If you can't even get past me, I advise you to pack up and go back to your hometown overseas. Hearing Bardo's words, Situ Qinglong did not look angry. He just smiled and gave a black man next to him a look. That man understood what he meant and stood up. "You're not qualified to provoke our boss. Let me deal with you first." The black man spoke in Chinese that was not fluent. This black man was also a powerhouse. As soon as he finished speaking, he clashed with Bardo with his fist. Bardo was a martial artist in the Vajra realm and was born with great strength. Every move, punch, and kick contained great power. Initially, he did not care about this black man. However, after exchanging a few punches with him, his face changed color. His opponent was actually on par with him in terms of strength and was even more skilled than him in terms of technique. Who do you think is stronger between these two blockheads? The layman watched the show, while the expert watched the skill. Sun Yinzi was just watching the show. Bardo should be stronger. Wang Wenan's uncle, Wang Biao, said, "Bardo is a famous expert in the northern martial arts world. Our boss admires him a lot. It is said that he killed more than 30 armed killers with his bare hands. He even smashed a solid hammer into a pie with his fist. Therefore, I think Bardo will definitely win." "He's that powerful?" Wang went on, and Sun Yinzi's heart swayed. One person going against more than 30 people and smashing a hammer with a single punch. Why did this sound like a plot that only appeared in television? "Mr. Li, what do you think?" Seeing that Li Changsheng did not speak, Wang Biao asked with a smile. From Wang Wenan's mouth, he already knew that Li Changsheng's background was indeed not ordinary. So, he deliberately said this to get closer to Li Changsheng. "My opinion is the opposite of yours. I think Bardo will lose. Although the two are about the same in terms of strength, the black man's realm is higher than Bardo." Realm? The three were confused. They were not cultivators. Naturally, they did not know what realm was. They only felt that whoever had more strength and better skills would win. Wang went on, and Sun Yinzi were confused. Wang Biao shook his head directly. "Mr. Li, you've guessed wrong this time. In addition to fighting against more than 30 assassins and flattening Iron Hammer, Bardo has an even more powerful battle record. If you listen to it, you'll know how powerful Bardo is." Wang Biao did not say anything and was interrupted by Li Changsheng. No matter what kind of record he has, he will lose today. This time, even Wang Biao's temper was aroused. "Mr. Li, are you so sure? Why don't we make a bet?" Hearing that there was a bet, Sun Yinzi and Wang Wenan became spirited. "How about it? Does Mr. Li dare to bet with my uncle?" Wang Wenan was trying to provoke him. He knew his uncle very well. He would never make a mistake for no reason. He was a very strict person. "There is no need to bet because it is too late." "What do you mean?" The three of them looked puzzled. Then, the black man in the field suddenly swung his leg and swept Bardo's chest. Bardo was sent flying. After landing, he kept vomiting blood. Both of them were innate strength-type martial artists. They could easily split a mountain. However, because there were many people present, they had some scruples. They integrated the fight into their fists and feet. To outsiders, it was just a collision of fists and feet. But in the eyes of the experts, each move was no less powerful than a bomb explosion. Bardo was swept in the chest, but it was no less than being hit by a high-speed train. Even with his strong body, he could not bear it. The field fell into silence. After more than 20 seconds, someone came forward to help Bardo off the stage. At this time, Bardo kept vomiting blood. When he was helped to the chair, he was like a dead dog, as if he would die at any time. "Who else wants to come?" The black man said in broken Chinese. His provocative eyes swept across many people present. For a moment, no one dared to speak. They were all shocked by his momentum. Chapter 539. The black man, who looked like a gorilla, looked at the people in the field proudly. At that time, there were several rogue cultivators who shouted that they would teach Situ Qinglong a lesson, but now they all shut their mouths obediently. "This guy is so powerful." Sun Yinzi even stuck out her tongue. "I have never seen such great strength. He is like a human-shaped savage beast." "Li Changsheng, how do you know that this black gorilla will win?" Wang went on, and his uncle Wang Biao also looked at Li Changsheng in confusion. Just now, When Li Chongqing judged that the black man would win, his attitude was very certain. It didn't seem like he was just randomly guessing. This black man had a longer endurance. This is a fact that everyone knows. They are the champions of every marathon. Hearing Li Chongqing's words, several people met each other. Although they felt that such a reason was a bit far-fetched, it seemed to make some sense. You judged that the guy would win based on this. Wang Biao looked at Li Chongqing, somewhat speechless. Just now, he thought that Li Chongqing was also a master. Yes, otherwise what do you think? Wang Biao shook his head and ignored Li Chongqing, but continued to look at the field. People don't know pain until they are beaten. Situ Qinglong shook his head, with a bit of disdain at the corner of his mouth. Everyone in the field suddenly felt that their faces were burning. At that time, many people were clamoring to teach Situ Qinglong and his disciple some lesson. On the other side, Miao Huntao frowned. As the leader among the rogue cultivators in the north, at this time, many people's eyes fell on him. Although Miao Huntao did not have a good impression of Barto for his recklessness, he knew that he had to stand up at this time. Let me see what you're capable of. Miao Huntao stood up and walked out. Today, he was wearing a robe. Coupled with his temperament, he had the demeanor of a great master. Who is this man? He looks like a scholar. Wang Wenan wondered. He is Miao Huntao. I didn't know his name before. This person is very low-key, but it is said that he is the real leader of the northern martial arts world. He is very powerful, but his physique is too different from that black man's. No matter how high his status is in the underworld, I'm afraid it'll be difficult for him to beat that black man. Son, Yinzi mumbled. I can't say for sure. Wang Biao also shook his head. On the surface, people like Miao Huntao were usually big bosses. People rarely knew how powerful they were. Miao Huntao will win, Li Chongqing said indifferently. At the side, Wang Biao and the others all revealed doubtful expressions. Wang Wenan shook his head. How is that possible? This Miao guy is not on the same level as the black man. Even in the ring, they are not on the same level. Who knew that as soon as he finished speaking, a burst of cheers would erupt from the crowd? Mr. Miao, you must avenge the northern Jianghu. Miao Huntao's appearance instantly stirred up the originally low morale of the crowd. It looks like they all think Miao Huntao will win. I wonder where their confidence comes from. Just when they were puzzled, Miao Huntao had already walked to the center of the ring. Mr. Miao, the leader of the northern cultivation world. This time, even Situ Qinglong's face was a little different. I accidentally killed a few blind guys. I heard that 2 of them were your friends, so I guess that you would come. But no one can stop the return of the Hong sect, not even you. After Situ Qinglong finished speaking, the black man had already swung his fist at Miao Huntao. His body was strong, and his fist was like a dragon. As soon as he made a move, the ground under his feet was stepped out one after another. How horrible! Sun Yinzi's face had already turned pale. The sound in the ring instantly fell into silence. Everyone held their breath. In the face of the black man's attack, Miao Huntao just smiled coldly. When the fist was close to him, he suddenly drew a circle with both hands, which was similar to the free hand in Tai Chi. The black man's fist was instantly stuck together like a big truck in a quagmire, moving with Miao Huntao's hand gesture. Then Miao Huntao suddenly stepped back half a step, and the terrifying force of the black man was instantly neutralized by his feet. Boom! The whole hall shook violently. In the next moment, after neutralizing the black man's force, Miao Huntao slapped the black man's chest. Bang! The black man's huge body instantly took 3 steps back. In the next moment, Miao Huntao's toes touched the ground, and he directly followed the black man like a swallow rubbing water. His palm was like a windmill, and he slapped dozens of times in a second. Bang, bang, bang. When he withdrew his palm, a round hole had been punched in the black man's clothes on his chest. It could be seen that the black man's chest had slightly caved in, and blood was flowing out of his mouth. After a short silence for a few seconds, there was a burst of enthusiastic cheers in the ring. Miao Huntao had won the battle against the black man. Even Li Chongqing couldn't help but gnawed slightly. Miao Huntao's strength was remarkable. Although he was also in the Vajra realm, he was many times more powerful than Badawa. After Miao Huntao sent the black man flying, the other 4 people behind Situ Qinglong stood out almost at the same time, staring at Miao Huntao fiercely. The 4 of them were all martial artists in the Vajra realm. Miao Huntao could defeat one of them, but it was obviously not easy to fight all 4 of them at the same time. What? Are you trying to bully me with numbers? A delicate voice was heard. Wei Xilan walked out from the crowd and stood beside Miao Huntao. When Wei Xilan and Miao Huntao were roaming the underworld, they had earned the title of Golden Boy and Jade Girl. Her strength was not inferior to senior brother Miao Huntao at all. When Wei Xilan stood out, 7 or 8 people in the crowd stood up as well. No one could say anything if they lost a one-on-one duel. However, if it was an unfair duel with numbers, there were naturally people who couldn't stand it. Stand down, Situ Qinglong said calmly. The 4 subordinates didn't dare to disobey him, and they all stepped back, but they still looked at Miao Huntao coldly. Mr. Miao, you are indeed the leader of the rogue cultivators in the north. Since my subordinate skills are not as good as yours, let this old man personally experience your skills. Situ Qinglong passed the crutch in his hand to the subordinate next to him and slowly straightened his back. At this moment, everyone's mind was filled with a roaring sound. The stooped figure just now seemed to have transformed into a mountain that pierced through the clouds, giving off a strong sense of oppression. This was the strength of a spirit master. When one's mental strength reached a terrifying level, one's every move seemed to contain the power of heaven and earth. So powerful. At this moment, Sun Yinzi and Wang Wenan's eyes were filled with shock. They were only ordinary mortals, so they had never seen such a mysterious power. Chapter 540. Sun Yinzi and the other ordinary people were not the only ones who were shocked. The famous itinerant cultivators in the field were also shocked. The people who were clamoring to teach Situ Qinglong a lesson all shut their mouths obediently. Miao Huntao looked at the seemingly ordinary old man with a solemn expression. In the end, a bitter smile appeared on his face. He knew that he was no match for the old man from the aura that the old man displayed. What's wrong, Mr. Miao? Are you scared? Situ Qinglong's lips curled into a disdainful smile. Before he came to Huaxia, he already knew the strength of the Huaxia cultivation world. That was why he dared to be so unscrupulous. I'm indeed no match for you, but if you want to deal a blow to the northern cultivation world, you're dreaming. I can't deal with you, but someone else can. Hearing Miao Huntao's words, Situ Qinglong could not help but shake his head and chuckle. Mr. Miao, you're already the leader of the northern cultivation world, but you don't even have the courage to fight me. Who else can stop me? The others around him also nodded gently. Yeah, Miao Huntao is so powerful, but he doesn't dare to make a move. Who else can stop Situ Qinglong? At that moment, Miao Huntao looked at the crowd. Mr. Li, it's time for you to teach this fake foreigner a lesson. Hearing Miao Huntao's words, there was a sudden uproar in the field. Who is Mr. Li? It seems that Miao Huntao admires him a lot. I don't remember there being an expert with the surname Li in the north. Below, Sun Yinzi and the others did not expect that it was Li Changsheng who was next to them. Instead, they wondered, could there be another powerful expert? It seems that there will be a good show to watch. Mr. Li, you seem to be very famous. At that moment, Li Changsheng slowly stood up and said with a smile, It's my turn. What do you mean? Sun Yinzi and the others were still a little confused and did not react. Seeing Li Changsheng walking toward the center step by step, they hurriedly said, Li Changsheng, don't be rash. Although your surname is also Li, he must be looking for a martial arts expert. Beside him, Wang Wenan and Wang Biao were also looking at Li Changsheng in a daze, thinking, is this young man's brain muddled? I told you, I'm Mr. Li. Li Changsheng turned around and smiled, then walked directly to the center of the field. At this time, everyone was looking for Mr. Li. When Li Changsheng walked out, he immediately attracted a lot of attention. What's wrong with this young man? They're looking for Mr. Li. Why is he standing out at this time? He's heading for the center. Young people nowadays don't know what's important. Is this a place for him to mess around? This caused an uproar. After all, in everyone's hearts, those who could contend against Sidu Qinglong were definitely top-notch experts. At the very least, an absolute expert would be a middle-aged man. For someone at Li Changsheng's age, even if he started cultivating in his mother's womb, how powerful could he be? Just as the crowd was in an uproar, a few figures in the crowd suddenly stood up at the same time. They were the 6 Vajra realm martial artists who were scared away by Li Changsheng. They were Zhang Yingwu, Shun Feiwen, Shi Minghui, and the others. Greetings, Mr. Li. Zhang Yingwu was the first to bow to Li Changsheng. If they were enemies with Li Changsheng that day, then today, Li Changsheng represented the cultivation world in the north. They were already on the same side. Greetings, Mr. Li. Greetings, Mr. Li. The other 5 also cupped their hands and bowed. Could he really be Mr. Li? Just as everyone was confused by the scene before them, Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan went up to greet him. Mr. Li, we're counting on you now. That's right, Mr. Li. This old man is too arrogant. Teach him a lesson. Wei Xilan also said, Elderly, do your best. On the other side, Yin Tianming, Fu Guahao, and the others from the Heaven's Path Alliance also shouted. At this moment, those who had doubts about Li Changsheng's identity finally understood that this ordinary-looking young man was the Mr. Li that Miao Huntao had mentioned. However, he was so young. Could he really defeat Sidu Qinglong and turn the tide? Many people were skeptical about this. You are Li Changsheng? Sidu Qinglong looked at Li Changsheng from head to toe. There was a murderous look in his eyes. He only had 2 purposes for going to Huaxia. First, he wanted to clear the way for the Hong sect to return to Huaxia. Second, he wanted to seek revenge on Li Changsheng. Hearing Situ Qinglong's question, Li Changsheng did not answer. He only nodded slightly and made a gesture of invitation. His attitude was very clear. Many people were still trying to figure out Li Changsheng's identity. However, the itinerant cultivators in the northwest had already guessed something. Before Tony came to Huaxia, he was already very close to reaching the immortal state. I thought you were a master who had made a name for himself more than a decade ago. Later, I heard that you were a young man. I didn't believe it until I saw you in person today. You are the most talented person I have ever seen. A person like you will eventually step into the God realm in the future. You might even be able to step into an even higher realm. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have killed my junior brother. Today, I have no choice but to kill this genius. Situ Qinglong was not in a hurry to make a move. Instead, he said with a smile, he was definitely a powerful man. Not only was he powerful in martial arts, but he had also reached the peak of his spiritual state. The so-called divine realm was different from ordinary warriors. Situ Qinglong had already regarded himself as a godlike existence in terms of mental state. It was as if victory was already in his hands and everything was under his control. It was as if he could vanish into thin air while talking and laughing. Let's do it. Li Changsheng did not show any emotion. In his opinion, Situ Qinglong's confidence was a fool's arrogance. You're so arrogant. Situ Qinglong felt the disdain in Li Changsheng's tone. His heart, which was as calm as a lake, actually stirred up some waves. However, before he could finish his sentence, Li Changsheng had already taken a big stride forward, his fist whistling towards him. You really talk a lot of nonsense. Li Changsheng snorted coldly. The transparent fist force flew out and enveloped Situ Qinglong's body. This punch was full of momentum. Even outsiders who did not know martial arts would find it very powerful. In the eyes of Situ Qinglong and his master, it was as if they saw an azure dragon, roaring and pouncing on them. At this moment, Situ Qinglong completely stopped looking down on Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng had already defeated most of the masters he had seen with this move. Break for me. After all, Situ Qinglong was close to the peak of the immortal state. With a loud roar, boundless spiritual force gathered and formed a sharp, long saber in front of him. It chopped down at Li Changxing's fist. Tony used his spiritual force to create electricity out of thin air, which was already extremely terrifying. Situ Qinglong's casual move was a long saber formed by his spiritual force, which was no different from a real thing. Obviously, he was many times stronger than his junior brother Tony in terms of attainment. Chapter 541. Is he doing magic? Why did the saber suddenly appear? Many people cover their mouths. Situ Qinglong's attack, which could be called a fatal blow, directly became a magic trick in the eyes of laymen. However, in the next moment, when the saber and Li Changxing's fist collided, the burst of energy overturned a nearby table and turned it into a pile of wood chips. Everyone in the hall widened their eyes. This was comparable to a stunt in a movie. If they didn't see it with their own eyes, they would only think it was a movie stunt and wouldn't believe it at all. After the fist and Sima Qinglong's saber collided, Li Changxing suddenly exerted his strength again. His fist was like a spear and continued to approach Sima Qinglong. The condensed saber was instantly shattered under his fist. "Kid, it seems that I've really underestimated you." Surprise flashed across Sima Qinglong's face and disappeared. His face was somewhat cold. He waved his hands, and his eyes turned into two clouds of blood mist. The blood mist suddenly flew out, and a gust of wind blew in the entire hall. Whoosh! The whirlpool surged, and a large cloud of blood mist suddenly merged into one and rushed toward Li Changxing. At this moment, everyone in the hall seemed to have arrived in a desert, and a tornado swept through the sky. The powerful wind speed could sweep them into pieces at any time. Some timid people had already knelt on the ground and trembled. It was simply like ants facing a god. "Kid surnamed Li, do you regret trying to kill my junior brother this time?" Situ Qinglong's majestic voice sounded. At this moment, he was like a god that dominated everything. "Regret." Li Changxing chuckled. "That junior brother of yours doesn't know the difference between life and death. He even dared to capture my woman. He has touched my reverse scale and deserved to die. As for you, do you think that you can deal with me with your little spiritual illusion technique?" The so-called immortal state powerhouses have just explored the mystery of the great Tao of heaven and earth. Do you really think you're an omnipotent god? How ridiculous. Li Changxing shook his head. His fist suddenly blossomed with radiance as he punched forward. Boom! It was like a sudden clap of thunder that shook one's soul. A transparent fist shot out from Li Changxing's fist. It streaked across the void and rushed into the raging tornado. The 9 transformations of the celestial devil that Li Changxing cultivated was the purest way to prove one's Tao through strength. A single punch could break all laws, and a single palm could shatter mountains and rivers. Although Situ Qinglong's secret spirit technique was powerful, no matter what material it was useless in the face of absolute power. Rumble. As the punch landed, the entire hall shook violently. The huge fist rushed into the tornado like a speedboat breaking through the waves. It was like a ray of sunlight in the morning that separated day and night. The various illusions in front of people's eyes disappeared in an instant. The entire hall returned to its original state, as if they had just experienced a dream. Situ Qinglong's body swayed, and blood flowed out of his eyes. Is this Li Changxing an immortal? Sun Yanzi, who was in the crowd, was completely dumbfounded. The other cultivators in the world of cultivation were also dazzled. Such a method was close to that of a god. At this time, Situ Qinglong clenched his fists, and there was a look of struggle on his face. Li Changxing was too strong, far beyond his expectations. He originally thought that his strength, which was close to the peak of the immortal state, was enough to fight against any master in Huaxia. Until now, he realized how wrong he was. At least, Li Changxing in front of him gave him a feeling that he was invincible. What should I do? Just when Situ Qinglong was hesitating whether to go all out, Li Changxing had raised his hand again. Take this. seal of mountains and rivers. The shadow of a mountain appeared on the back of Li Changxing's hand. It was so majestic that it made people feel suffocated. It quickly pressed down on Situ Qinglong. I'll fight with you. I don't believe that you can really kill an immortal state warrior. Situ Qinglong roared and waved his hands. A pair of transparent wings appeared on his back. His wings were like blades cutting through the void. He was like an eagle hunting its prey, quickly slicing towards Li Changxing's location. This was his trump card, the angel's wings. Although the name sounded good, its power was very terrifying. Even a small mountain would be cut in half under the wings. When his wings touched Li Changxing's palm, there was a crackling sound. The wings, which could even cut through the void, could not break the defense of Li Changxing's palm. How is this possible? Situ Qinglong's face changed drastically. However, before he could do anything else, the shadow of the mountain had already pressed down on his body. Boom! The force of 10,000 tons pressed down, slapping Situ Qinglong from the air to the ground. With a deafening noise, Situ Qinglong was seen lying on the ground. His head was directly embedded in the ground. His entire body had been cracked, and blood kept oozing out. Everyone who saw this scene sucked in a breath of cold air. To slap a person into such a state, there was no hope for him to survive. Oh no! Apart from a black man who was injured by Miao Hun Tao, the other four of Situ Qinglong's 5 subordinates fled without hesitation. Some rushed to the door, while others directly crashed into the bright floor-to-ceiling window. It's too late. Li Changxing shook his head. He suddenly took a step forward, and an invisible force spread from the soles of his feet in all directions. A burly man with yellow hair, who had just flown to the window, showed a look of joy in his eyes. The next moment, he seemed to have hit an invisible wall and was directly bounced back. As soon as his body landed, a ball of flames appeared out of thin air, enveloping his body. Amidst his blood-curdling screams, his body was burned into a pile of ashes in less than a few seconds. The other 3 also encountered the same situation. Raging flames burned the 4 bodies. They fell to the ground and turned into ashes. What a powerful Taoist technique. Everyone's hearts were in a state of shock. This Mr. Li is really powerful. Miao Hun Tao could not help but laugh bitterly and looked at his junior sister, Wei Xilan. He originally thought that Li Changxing would have to put in a lot of effort to deal with Situ Qinglong. However, it seemed that it was a one-sided crushing. This is real power. Wei Xilan's eyes were filled with an indescribable feeling. Just now, Li Changxing's imposing manner had been deeply imprinted in her mind. At this moment, Li Changxing ordered Fu Guahao and the rest, who were dumbfounded, clean up the scene. Then, he walked out of the hall without looking back. After killing Situ Qinglong, the situation was settled. Fu Guahao and the rest would naturally clean up the mess. Chapter 542. It wasn't until Li Changxing walked out of the hall that the crowd reacted and burst into an uproar. It was one thing for the ordinary people, but that was especially true for the people of the world of cultivation. All of them had strange expressions on their faces and were filled with emotion. Situ Qinglong was the Dragon Lord of the Hong sect. In the Hong sect, the Dragon Lord status was only second to the chief. In ancient times, he was the lord of a region. Moreover, Situ Qinglong had become famous 10 years ago. He was a famous super expert in the world. Who would have thought that he would be killed as soon as he came to the north and wanted to establish his power? In the hall, under Fu Guahao's command, someone immediately came to clean up the scene. Situ Qinglong's body was lying on the ground. When the subordinates wanted to lift him up, they found that his entire head was embedded in the floor. It took a lot of effort to pull it out. When the body was placed on a stretcher and carried out, someone saw Situ Qinglong's face. It was too horrible to look at. His body was almost smashed into a meat patty. If it was someone who didn't know, they would definitely think that he was crushed by a collapsed house, heavy machinery, or a car. No one would have thought that he was slapped into this state. Mr. Duan, can you tell Mr. Li that we want to invite him to our residence as a guest? The 6 Vajra realm experts who were scared away by Li Chongqing that day came up and asked Duan Yu, the chief steward of Shuo City. Okay, I will pass on the message. Duan Yu nodded. This battle made Li Chongqing completely famous in the northern cultivation world. It wouldn't take long for the entire Heavenly Dao Union to be shaken. This was also very beneficial for Wei Gangqiu to compete for the position of the Heavenly Dao Union Lord. In the past, the northern region was the weakest. Although Wei Gangqiu was very strong, he didn't have much say in the Heavenly Dao Union. Now that Li Chongqing killed Sidu Qinglong, this battle result would raise the status of the entire northern region. Wei Gangqiu would also have the right to speak. Even if he didn't become the Heavenly Dao Union Lord in the end, no one would dare to look down on the northern region. Not long after returning to the villa, Ouyang Ruo, Fu Guohao, and the others also came back. They all had a look of excitement on their faces. Mr. Li, you have greatly increased the prestige of our Heavenly Dao Union today. Yes, the death of the Dragon Lord of the Hong sect in the north was a huge blow to the Hong sect's morale. In the next few days, many people came to visit Li Chongqing. Even Wei Gangqiu called to congratulate Li Chongqing. During this time, Miao Huntao and Wei Xilan also came by a few times. Through these days of interaction, their relationship with Li Chongqing had become much closer, and they had become good friends. On this day, Li Chongqing left the house in the mountains and returned to Qin City. He had not seen Yu Wei for a few days, so he planned to accompany her. As far as he knew, Yu Wei was in the dormitory because there were no classes today. He went to the city to pick out a gift for Yu Wei and went directly to the female dormitory. Just as she was about to call Yu Wei, she heard a commotion in front of her. Many people were gathered together, and there seemed to be the sound of music. He walked closer and saw a band singing in the middle of the crowd. There was a banner behind them, and it seemed like they were confessing their love to someone. College students these days are so romantic. Li Chongqing shook his head. Suddenly, he saw a familiar figure. It was Yu Wei. The band was singing, and a well-dressed young man was holding a bouquet of flowers and blocking Yu Wei's way. Yu Wei, be my girlfriend. The man shouted as soon as the music stopped. Be together. Be together. In the crowd, people clapped their hands and shouted in unison. The boy was tall, sturdy, and quite handsome. Standing there, he looked very similar to a certain celebrity on TV. Normally, seeing such a scene, Li Chongqing would definitely praise this young man for his bravery and romance. But at this moment, he couldn't be happy because the person he was confessing to was his girlfriend. Sorry, I have a boyfriend. Yu Wei rejected his bouquet of flowers and turned to leave. However, the young man blocked her way again. Yu Wei, give me a chance. As long as you don't register your marriage with him, I will not give up on you. How can you be like this? Yu Wei said that she has a boyfriend. Tong Xiaoxiao couldn't stand it anymore and said loudly, It's her business whether she has a boyfriend or not. It's my business whether I want to pursue her or not. The young man said eloquently, Even if you want to pursue her, you won't have a chance. Just then, a cold voice sounded. Li Chongqing walked out and put his arm around Yu Wei's shoulder. Chongqing, why are you here? Yu Wei was a little flustered. She said hurriedly, Chongqing, don't misunderstand. She was about to explain to Li Chongqing what had happened. Li Chongqing shook his head. You don't have to explain. I understand. When the young man saw Li Chongqing, there was a look of dissatisfaction on his face. Yu Wei, is this your boyfriend? How is he better than me? Yu Wei wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Li Chongqing. I'm better than you in every aspect. Aren't you a little too arrogant? The boy's gaze towards Li Chongqing was filled with hostility. From the first time he saw Yu Wei, he was deeply in love with her and couldn't extricate himself. When he finally mustered up the courage to confess to her, he didn't expect that Yu Wei was already taken. However, Yu Wei's boyfriend was a very ordinary guy. How could he give up? Kid, I want to fight with you. When a young man saw that Li Chongqing was about to leave with Yu Wei, he suddenly stretched out his hands and blocked their way. I want to show you, Yu Wei, who is better between you and me. Hearing the young man's words, Li Changsheng couldn't help but curl his lips. In his opinion, although the guy in front of him had a strong body, it was obvious that he had never learned martial arts. His footsteps were unsteady. If people in the cultivation world knew that such a person was going to duel with him, they would laugh their heads off. Li Changsheng felt that he should teach this young man a lesson for daring to pursue his girlfriend. Although Li Changsheng wouldn't really do anything to him for such a small matter, Li Changsheng felt that it would be very pleasant to let him suffer some physical pain. Do you want to fight with me? Li Changsheng asked with a smile. Unexpectedly, the young man snorted disdainfully. You want to fight with me with your weak body? I can make you unable to get up at any time. In order not to let others say that I bully the weak, I won't fight with you. Then what do we compete in? Li Changsheng raised his eyebrows and asked. Let's compete in wrestling. Do you dare? Chapter 543. After the man finished speaking, he showed off his strong muscles and looked at Li Changsheng proudly. It was no wonder that he was much taller than Li Changsheng. In addition, he often exercised, so his muscles looked very strong. After knowing that Li Changsheng was Yu Youwei's boyfriend, he had already given up. However, he was still unconvinced and wanted to teach Li Changsheng a lesson to vent his anger. Li Changsheng, don't accept his challenge. At this time, Tong Xiaoxiao was the first to wave her hand at Li Changsheng. Yu Yuwei was already Li Changsheng's girlfriend. In her opinion, there was no need to accept the challenge, not to mention that the other party clearly did not have any good intentions. Yeah, Li Changsheng, I also don't think you have any chance of winning. Yang Xiaoya, who was wearing black-rimmed glasses, nodded vigorously to express her agreement. Only Sun Yanzi was silently mourning for the strong guy. She was the only one present who had seen Li Changsheng's strength. The scene at Grand Sentiment Building that day was still fresh in her memory. In her heart, Li Changsheng was already an invincible god of war. Especially after Li Changsheng left Kuli, she heard many people talking about Li Changsheng. Only then did she understand how high his status was. What's wrong, boy? You don't dare? The man sneered. He felt that he was now the most handsome boy on campus. He was majestic and had a good demeanor. Although his confession failed, he did not feel ashamed. Who says I don't dare? Just when the other party was feeling complacent, Li Changsheng suddenly said with a playful expression. The other party wanted to teach him a lesson. How could he not want to teach him a lesson? This guy was too daring. He dared to pursue his girlfriend. How was it Li Changsheng's style if he didn't loosen his muscles and bones? Li Changsheng nodded and agreed. Tong Xiaoxiao, who was next to him, was a little anxious. Li Changsheng, are you stupid? If you agree with him, won't you be beaten up miserably? The people around them all had gloating expressions. De Jong is a Mongolian, the #1 wrestler in our school's wrestling club. What's wrong with this guy's brain? It's over now. With De Jong's skills, this guy will be badly bruised. But it's understandable. Men have to show their righteous side in front of their girlfriends. I think you guys just want to keep up appearances and suffer. When you fall to the ground, do you think you'll be able to keep up appearances? Na Yong crossed his arms and sneered. The reason why he wanted to wrestle with Li Changsheng was because wrestling was his forte. Li Changsheng actually dared to nod his head in agreement. Wasn't this courting death? However, it seemed a little despicable that he deliberately set a trap for Li Changsheng to fall into. In order to maintain his lofty image, De Jong said coldly, "Brat, I'll give you one more chance to back out. If you lower your head and apologize to me right now and admit that you're not as good as me, I won't compete with you in wrestling." Sure enough, his words were praised by many people. Big Bro De Jong is really gentlemanly. Good job, Brother De Jong. You're indeed our captain. Those who spoke were the members of the wrestling team. They admired De Jong more. There's no need. Who knew that Li Changsheng would shake his head and refuse directly? If you don't dare to compete with me, just admit defeat. Why do you have to say so much nonsense? De Jong's eyes widened when Li Changsheng finished his words. What? I don't dare to compete with you? He couldn't help but roll up his sleeves. Brat, who gave you the courage to say this? You'll soon know how stupid you are. Let's start then. Li Changsheng also took 2 steps forward. Yu Wei and the others automatically made way for him. Yu Wei, why don't you persuade your boyfriend? I've heard of this De Yong. He's very good at wrestling. He represented our school in a competition before. Tong Xiao was a little anxious. Due to her cheerful personality, she expanded her network not long after entering university. She knew many famous people in the school. Moreover, due to her nature of gossiping, one of the school's newspapers had already hired her as an intern reporter. It's okay. Changxing won't do things that he's not confident in. Yu Wei smiled. Tong Xiao still wanted to say something, but Sun Yinzi tugged at her sleeve. It's okay. I think Li Changxing might not lose. What did you say? Him? You don't think he can win, right? Just him? Tong Xiao curled her lips. At this moment, De Yong sneered and suddenly grabbed Li Changxing's shoulder. Brother De Yong, you can do it. Brother De Yong, defeat him quickly. Amidst the cheers, Li Changsheng suddenly grabbed De Yong's wrist with both hands and twisted it. At the same time, he hooked his leg forward. Plop! De Yong's 1.8-meter tall body fell to the ground with a loud bang. Suddenly, the cheers in the field stopped abruptly. It can't be. Many people stare with their eyes wide open. De Yong from the wrestling team actually lost to an ordinary young man who looked too weak to stand up to a gust of wind. I'm not convinced. De Yong got up from the ground with his face covered in dirt. He felt that he had lost all his face. I was careless just now. Again. As he spoke, he rushed towards Li Changsheng without any explanation. His hands were aimed at Li Changsheng's neck. This was one of the moves in wrestling. He was taller than Li Changsheng. As long as he wrapped his hands around Li Changsheng's neck, he could use an overwhelming advantage to throw Li Changsheng to the ground. Unfortunately, he still underestimated Li Changsheng's strength. When he rushed in front of Li Changsheng, his vision suddenly blurred and he lost sight of Li Changsheng. Just as he was feeling puzzled, Li Changsheng suddenly grabbed his arm and threw him over his shoulder. De Yong fell to the ground with his head raised. Bang! The loud sound made everyone's heart skip a beat. De Yong was thrown to the ground and was in so much pain that he grimaced. After half a minute, he finally got up with difficulty. When he looked at Li Changsheng again, the way he looked at him had completely changed. If he was not convinced the first time and felt that he had been careless, then the second time he had used all his strength but was still inexplicably thrown to the ground by Li Changsheng. The most important thing was that he was thrown to the ground by Li Changsheng with a shoulder throw despite his height. This was simply a case of using 4 tails to lift 1,000 caddies. His skillful use of force was superb. What? Do you want to go again? Li Changsheng stretched out his hand with a smile. De Yong was so scared that he quickly took a step back. Only then did he realize that he had lost his composure. An awkward smile appeared on his face. Finally, he said seriously, I lost. You are too strong. I don't know if you're interested in joining our wrestling team. I can give you the position of captain. No need. Li Changsheng shook his head. I'm not a student of this university. As he said that, he went over and held Yu Wei's hand. Let's go. I'll take you to lunch. What do you want to eat? Bridge rice noodles, malatang, or jianbing? Hearing Li Changsheng's words, Yu Wei blinked and thought for a while. I think malatang is better. Okay, I'll be generous today. You can order as much as you want. Wow, I'm so happy. Yu Wei jumped up and kissed Li Changsheng's cheek. After the kiss, she remembered that they were in public. Looking at the dumbfounded eyes of the people around her, her face turned red like an apple. Let's go. As she said that, she lowered her head and pulled Li Changsheng away. Sigh. Tong Xiao looked at the back of the 2 people and shook her head with a sigh. The goddess of our dormitory, Yu Wei, who was named the top of the top 10 campus belles in our university, was taken away by a bowl of malatang. How unambitious. Sun Yinzi had a complicated look on her face. She wanted to say that she could not ask for more malatang. Chapter 544. Li Changsheng had been shopping with Yu Wei for the past few days. His days were relaxing and fulfilling. However, the news of him killing Sidu Qinglong, the Dragon Lord of the Hong sect, had caused a huge uproar in the northern martial arts world. More and more people came to visit Li Changsheng. However, since Li Changsheng was not at the headquarters, they could not see him. However, leisure time was always short, and he had to repay the favor he owed. As soon as he sent Yu Wei back to school, he received a call from Wei's Island. "Mr. Li, I have something I need your help with. May I know where you are now? Tell me where you are, and I will come to you." "At home." "Okay, I will be there soon." Li Changsheng hung up and called Fu Guahao immediately. He asked Fu Guahao to drive him back to Shuo City. He had accidentally absorbed the water in Wei's Island's jar and owed Wei's Island a favor. He had promised Wei's Island that she could look for him if she needed help. However, he did not expect that it would be time to return the favor so soon. After Fu Guahao asked for Li Changsheng's location, a Mercedes-Benz off-road vehicle stopped in front of the school. Li Changsheng sat in the car and asked Fu Guahao to go to Shuo City. Fu Guahao did not ask why. He drove the car as fast as he could and rushed to Shuo City. He sped all the way, and no car could match his speed. However, Li Changsheng was not worried at all. He and Fu Guahao were both powerful cultivators. Even if the car flipped into a ditch, they would not be hurt. Moreover, cultivators like Fu Guahao had a reaction speed that was a few hundred times faster than ordinary people. They were more agile than professional racers when it came to driving a car. It was impossible for them to crash. Although the world of cultivators was not like the immortals that people imagined, no matter what kind of work they did, they were 100 times more efficient than ordinary people. Therefore, if a cultivator were to do any industry, they could easily reach the top of that industry. Li Changsheng arrived at Wei's Island's villa in Shuo City after an hour's drive. Wei's Island's senior brother, Miao Hun Tao, was there as well. When they saw Li Changsheng, both of them were overjoyed. "Mr. Li, you are finally here. What happened? What can I do for you?" Li Changsheng asked straightforwardly. It was not his nature to be secretive. "It's like this." Wei's Island took a deep breath and told her everything that had happened. It turned out that Wei's Island was an orphan when she was young. She was adopted and raised by her master. In Wei's Island's heart, her master was her family. But in reality, her master was not a kind person in the world of cultivation. On the contrary, his reputation was extremely bad, and he had done many evil things when he was young. Just a few days ago, an enemy who had a grudge with him came looking for him to seek revenge. 10 years ago, her master had severely injured the other party and caused him to fall off a cliff. Unexpectedly, the other party did not die. Instead, he had obtained the inheritance of an ancient rogue cultivator at the bottom of the cliff, and his strength had greatly increased. Now, he had returned to seek revenge from her master. Her master asked around and found out that the enemy was at the peak of the Finger Profound realm. He knew that he was no match for the enemy, so he asked his friends for help. However, no one wanted to offend a master at the peak of the Finger Profound realm. Wei's Island was anxious when she heard the news. She thought about it and realized that only Li Changsheng had the ability to defeat a master at the peak of the Finger Profound realm. Li Changsheng had just defeated Sidu Qinglong, and Sidu Qinglong was at the peak of the immortal realm. The immortal realm in the west was the Finger Profound realm. Li Changsheng could defeat Sidu Qinglong, so he had a high chance of winning against a master at the peak of the Finger Profound realm. Wei's Island looked at Li Changsheng anxiously. She was nervous. After all, he was at the peak of the Finger Profound realm, which was close to being an immortal. Even the leader of the Heavenly Tao Alliance was at the same level. The leader of the Heavenly Tao Alliance was one of the top masters in the entire Huaxia cultivation world. She didn't know if Li Changsheng would agree to fight against such a strong enemy. Unexpectedly, after hearing her words, Li Changsheng did not hesitate at all and directly nodded. "Okay, when do we leave?" She didn't expect Li Changsheng to agree so quickly. Wei's Island and Miao Huntao were surprised. "I told you to find me if you need anything. I'm a man of my word." Li Changsheng smiled. Let's go now. Wei Xylan was eager to go home. Her master was like her father to her. Okay, I'll arrange it now, Miao Huntao said immediately. He made a phone call, and a business car arrived. They got into the car and went to the airport. It was already 3 o'clock in the afternoon when they arrived at their destination. Wei Xylan's master opened a martial arts club in the city and taught more than 10 disciples. However, he didn't practice cultivation like Wei Xylan. He only taught people to strengthen their bodies. He was living in seclusion here. When Wei Xylan and Li Chongsheng appeared, there were a few disciples practicing martial arts in the combat room. Ha ha ha! Li Chongsheng looked at them carefully and realized that none of them had the aura of cultivation. Even their martial arts were mediocre. He knew that they were living in seclusion in the name of opening a martial arts club. None of them were truly trained. When Wei Xylan and Miao Huntao appeared, the disciples greeted them. However, they didn't call them senior sister or senior brother. Instead, they called Wei Xylan President Wei and Miao Huntao President Miao. Wei Xylan explained to Li Chongsheng that she was the owner of the martial arts club in name. The disciples didn't know about the relationship between Wei Xylan and her master. When they walked into the office on the second floor of the martial arts club, they saw two old men sparring with their fingers like swords. In a small area, the two fingers collided like dragons and phoenixes. The sound of metal clashing could be heard. It was as if two swords were really fighting. When they saw Wei Xylan and Miao Huntao enter, the two old men stopped. Masters Jr. Wei Xylan and Miao Huntao bowed at the same time. These two old men were Wei Xylan and Miao Huntao's masters. The one on the left was Wei Xylan's master, Meng Qi. The one on the right was Miao Huntao's master, Tao Wen. Miao Huntao's master was the senior brother. Wei Xylan's master was the junior brother. When they saw Wei Xylan and Miao Huntao, the two old men were happy. However, when they saw Li Chongsheng standing behind them, they were confused. Lan'er, who is this? Don't tell me he's your boyfriend? Tao Wen chuckled and looked Li Chongsheng up and down. Although you're in your 30s and you're considered a leftover woman in today's society, your boyfriend is too ordinary. He doesn't match your temperament. After Tao Wen said that, Wei Xylan's master, Meng Qi, shook his head. I also think that he doesn't match up to my disciple. When he heard what the two old men said, Li Chongsheng felt awkward. Wei Xylan's face turned red instantly. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.